have the gavel? Very good.
Commissioner Burling? Commissioner Brzezowski?
Present.
Commissioner Buder?
Present.
Commissioner Mickey?
Here.
Commissioner McMorrissey?
Here.
Thank you.
Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just two things. First of all, I wanted to thank Mary Bilsey, our Environmental Programs Manager, for pitch hitting for me the last couple of months. And the other thing is there will be a Halloween parade on Thursday, October 31st at 4:30. This is both a Halloween and a city anniversary. So we usually have a parade. The commissions and council and a bunch of the community groups will be present in their vehicles. So there's a question for you as a commission. Did you want to participate? If so, we can get you the forms to fill in, but just wanted to get the word out there and kind of get an initial nodding of heads if you'd be interested in participating. No committal today, it's just kind of an intention, and then we can go from there.
Possibly, yes.
A possible?
Like in costume?
It depends
Yeah.
what participating means.
Yeah.
Depends. So we have a possible, depends.
I think
Maybe,
if
a
we
maybe.
participate as a group.
Sure.
I'm all in.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm here. So.
Okay, so it seems like,
Is it
okay,
on the, is it on the
we'll get
31st?
What's that?
Is it on the 31st?
It's on the
Which is
31st.
the-
It's
I know
a
that-
Thursday
Okay.
at 4:30. I'll get the paperwork going. I'll route it to the commission to sign up if you're so interested. I just wanted to launch it now.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I had for announcements.
So do we have any tree costumes in your cupboard?
Did I show you the picture of, we dressed my son up as a tree last year for Christmas, or for Halloween?
Maybe you have a connection up the peninsula for some tree costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Is that all the announcements?
Yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public appearances. Under the Brown Act, public comment for matters on the agenda must relate to that agenda item, and public comments for matters not on the agenda must relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of this legislative body. Hateful, violent, and threatening speech is impermissible public comment as it disrupts the conduct of the public meeting. This is a warning that if a member of the public attending this meeting remotely violates the Brown Act by failing to comply with these requirements of the meeting, then the speaker will be muted. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comment shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission. Matters not appearing on the commission's agenda will not receive action at this meeting, but may be referred to staff for a future discussion. Persons are not required to give their names, but it is helpful for speakers to state their names so that they may be identified in the minutes of the meeting. Do we have anybody that would like to make a public comment today?
Good afternoon, Commission. Melanie Billig. Just a question. Justin and Commission, we had an item on the agenda, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, and it involved a pine tree on public property at the corner of 12th and Lincoln Street. And there was an issue about removal, and removal was denied. I went back there. I just happened to be on my walk. I went back there, and the tree's gone.
It wasn't denied, it was accepted.
The removal was accepted? Was it appealed or something? I don't know. That's why I wanted to ask any of you if you.
Remember they
There was-
got an evaluation and then they came back. and
Was
said
that the one with the
It,
engineer?
Let's let Melanie finish. Did you, are you, is this your question
Yes,
is
and my
about,
question is, I wanted to ask you all.
about the tree
Yeah,
on
yeah,
12th
what
and Lincoln?
happened, you know?
And that it's missing and you'd like to know what
it's
happened?
gone,
Okay.
definitely gone.
Okay, okay.
So if you could, someone could get back to me at some point when it's.
We'll look into that.
We will
and get back to you.
contact you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Welcome back, Bob.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to comment?
I have a comment on one of the agenda items. Is now the time to do that?
No, sir.
okay.
We'll invite you back up when we're on that agenda topic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment?
Good afternoon. My name's Arlene Etienne. As an interested resident and former attorney, I'd like to make 3 points about the Carmel Master Forest Plan. My 3 points relate to transparency, justification, and legal requirements, all having to do with the proper process for changing or replacing the existing master plan. First, to the extent that the draft master plan would change the existing plan approved 22 years ago, I believe, the changes should be shown in underline strikeout format in the existing plan. If there are wholesale changes, it should be made clear what exactly is being proposed for deletion and replacement. Doing so makes the proposal with respect to the existing plan transparent to the public and to the decision makers. If there are wholesale changes being proposed, transparency dictates showing clearly what exactly would be changed or replaced in the existing plan, and why, which leads to my next point. Second, there needs to be a reason given for any and all changes to the existing plan. The existing plan, after all, is a governing document for protecting, maintaining, and sustaining Carmel's unique native forest. If the draft is being proposed to address climate change, for example, there must be an explanation substantiated by factual information, evidence, and scientific reasonings as to why the existing master plan is inadequate. The reasons and explanation must be scientifically based and open to question and discussion. In effect, the question should be, what, if anything, is broken about the existing plan that compels modification and replacement to protect and sustain our unique forest? That must all be clearly explained and discussed, and it must be done with the same level of scientific rigor and reasoning that supports the existing plan. Mere presumption and conclusory statements are not enough. Third, but far from least, all efforts to produce a draft master plan must be accompanied by a comprehensive environmental assessment in accordance with CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. This public comment period is not the time and place to get into the details of CEQA, but as soon as possible, the effort should begin. It should, in fact, have already begun. The regulatory guidelines and checklists provide guidance for an initial study, mandatory findings of significance, and the comprehensive scope of assessment. Let me say that an opinion survey, as was already conducted, is insufficient grounds to base a comprehensive environmental assessment. The public and the decision makers, not to mention this special forest in which we live, all deserve a comprehensive assessment of all primary and secondary environmental effects of changing what is a well thought out and existing master plan to one with goals that may be subject to debate, which should be invited and encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to comment? Okay, it looks like we have a couple people on Zoom.
Caller 1, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Nina Beatty. I want to comment on
We can't, can you speak up a little bit louder because we can barely hear you?
Okay, can you hear this better now?
Just a
Can you
little
hear me
bit. If
better
you can
now?
speak up a little bit louder.
Okay, I will see if I can increase the volume. I wanted to talk about the forest management plan that the the city council heard on Tuesday night. Can you not hear me?
It's a little difficult.
It is difficult to hear you.
Okay. I don't know how I can adjust the volume even any higher, but because I can hear it loudly in my ear. I wanted to speak about the forest management plan that the City Council approved this week. This plan is a multi-city plan that's been adopted by Monterey and Pacific Grove. I've sent a letter to the City Council outlining the real fire dangers to this community and the problems and omissions with this plan. Are you not, is my voice not coming through?
We're hearing you just barely. I think you're referring to the community wildlife fire plan that was discussed at City Council on Tuesday evening this week?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
I will send a letter with this issue to the Forest and Beach Commission because there are issues that the City Council did not address, and the technology also failed that night, and I was not able to make my comments. So I'll just leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have another caller on Zoom.
Rami, go ahead.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I want to bring to your attention, Commissioners and Madam Chair, a letter that was, I don't know if it made it in time to get to your packets, but it was put together by our director, Maria Sutherland, and I'll just say my name's Rami Allard, representing the Friends of Carmel Forest. We, actually Maria encountered some questionable tree trimming yesterday on Dolores, next to the Carmel Realty building. I guess it's the old Co-America building. And we were shocked with how much pruning was being done. We're not sure if that company is licensed with the city. We're not sure if they are licensed with the contractor board. Part of the rules of contractor board suggests that licenses need to be posted on the trucks that were working. They were not. We're not sure that they had a permit for that trimming. There were limbs that were trimmed greater than 4 inches. And we asked about a permit, and we were told that the establishment had the permit and they couldn't produce it or reproduce it. And when asked if they were, if the forester was aware of this, the comment was, "We are friends with Justin." So we want to make sure that this kind of tree work is not done and that there are punitive responses to this. I want Justin personally to go over there and make sure that he believes that work was done properly and confirm that there was indeed a permit and that they did what was supposed to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Rami. We'll note it, and it will be followed up with. Did you say you observed that yesterday?
Yes, and the letter was sent to the commissioners today, yes. But I'm not sure, like I said, if it made it into your hands yet or not. So
okay. I would just say if anything is being observed that doesn't seem quite right, please feel free to always call the city immediately for reporting, because it's possible it can be handled in real time. We've had several instances like that.
In that letter, you will see the timeline of the phone calls that were made. Phone calls were made to the city, phone calls were made to the police, phone calls were then again made to the city again. The forester was not able to be reached at the time. I believe Justin may have gone out after the fact, but I believe we did follow the protocol for reporting such a thing. And we would like some follow-up as to what actually happened there and Was that person's licensed? Are they a licensed contractor? They
Sure.
called themselves arborists.
Right.
And I don't think they were arborists.
So, okay, noted, and we'll make sure that you get a follow-up on that location and that site. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Maria.
Thank you.
I responded to Maria earlier today, and I will follow up with you guys.
Are there any other people that would like to make a comment? It looks like not on Zoom, not in chambers. Okay, let's move.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may address the comment from one of the callers on Zoom about the community wildfire prevention plan. Maybe the caller was unaware. That plan was vetted by the Forest and Beach Commission, I believe it was last November. So there was a presentation made by the former Carmel fire chief. The packet, it was included in your packet. There was a presentation. I believe the direction from the commission was to approve it and recommend that it goes forward to the city council. So that's what happened on Tuesday night. And since the time that the plan didn't change, there was just additional community outreach and dot the i's, cross the t's on the final report. And now it's been approved by all three agencies, City of Monterey, City of Pacific Grove, and now City of Carmel-by-the-Sea. Just wanted to clarify that has been vetted by the Forest and Beach.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and/or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended action. In today's meeting, we just have one item on the consent agenda. It's the approval of our August 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. Would anybody?
I move approval.
Okay. Thank you, Hans. You weren't here. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Yes?
Commissioner Buder?
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey?
Yes.
Commissioner McMorrissey?
Yes.
Thank you. The item is passed.
Thank you. We have one item for public hearing today. It's the consideration of the removal of a Torrey pine at 26010 Ridgewood Road. I'll turn that over to Bob.
Yeah, I
would you
think-
like to take that to get us started?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
It has come to our attention earlier today that the applicant, it's not the appellant, it's the applicant. The applicant and they're represented by their attorney contacted us to let us know that they will be requesting a continuance of this item. I spoke to an attorney representing, I believe it's a neighbor, who was not aware that it's being continued. So what I would recommend to the commission is that prior to making a finding of continuing, open it, maybe Justin do a very brief overview of what the issue is, open it up for public comments, and at that point the commission can either proceed to hear the full item or to agree to continue it to either a date uncertain or the next meeting, depending on how the applicant feels. That's my recommendation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Correct. And did you hear a basis for the continuance? The
Something
request.
about the application, the records being, they wanted to change something on the application, I believe.
All right, perhaps the applicant
Yeah.
is best to
Yeah.
best
And
answer that
he's in the room.
Okay.
question.
So should we hear that from the applicant first, or should we do the overview first?
I would suggest you do a very quick
Okay.
overview of what the
Overview.
issue is, so the community at large just understands what the
Topic is.
what is the topic.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
So the applicant, Mr. Howard Raphael, has a very large Torrey pine in his backyard at 26010 Ridgewood. The tree is could only be described as excessively large and healthy. It is encroaching on the neighbor's property to the west, and they've actually had to notch the roof of their ADU. And there's been some history with this tree dating back over 20 years with its wanting to have it removed. It's been denied at Forest and Beach Commission already, and I'm bringing.
That was in 2001.
Yes, yeah, I'm
right,
saying
okay,
over 20 years. So
Okay.
it was denied in 2001 for removal, and I was bringing it here because there was a new application for removal this year, and I, just with the health and, and the size of the tree, I couldn't make the finding underneath just the forester's purview. So I think we should have the applicant or his representative explain what the continuance is about, the request for continuance.
Okay, would you like to come forward and describe the, are we correct that you would like this to be heard another time?
Excuse me?
Are we correct in that you would like to not have this be an item on today's agenda?
Yes, we'd like it postponed. I'm the applicant.
Okay.
And I would just like to say that the tree is unsafe. When you go onto my property and look at the tree, you see a nice big full tree and all the limbs on one side. But if you go onto the neighbor's property, all the limbs, and I'm talking about limbs as big as 8 or 9 inches, have been removed. So the tree is asymmetrical and you know, and biased toward falling on my house. So that's one of the reasons why I would like to have it removed. But a recent survey we had done showed that the tree is in joint ownership between myself and the neighbor, because part of the tree is on the neighbor's property. So that's one of the reasons why we would like to have it continued to another time.
So the basis is that your request for continuance relates to who owns the tree?
Yes, and who owns the tree. And when I made the application for removal, I thought I owned the tree. But since then, I received this surveyor's report, which indicates it's jointly owned. So in order, if it's jointly owned, permission has to be granted by the people my neighbors. It's a dual ownership when the tree is on the property line.
Are the neighbors here today? Are the neighbors here?
Not to my knowledge.
Yes.
Their representative is. I believe their representative is here.
Oh, okay. I don't.
Are the neighbors also requesting that the tree be removed?
You know,
Well, we'll get that.
Okay.
Let's ask the neighbor's representative
Yeah.
for that if we should.
I just don't know that.
Sir, do you believe that you'll be ready to discuss this item at next month or 2 months? Is there
My attorney advised, yes, next month.
next month?
Yes.
Okay. It's up to the commission to make that decision.
Yes,
but
I understand.
We're just make sure that you would be ready.
Yes, I
by
understand.
Next month. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Should we hear?
The representative?
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Alex Lorca with Fenton Keller. I do represent the neighbors at the back of the Raphael property. The Hewers, we too would request a continuance. For the record, I'll note we're not going to concede some of the statements made by Mr. Raphael at this point, but due to the lack of notice to my clients, we would request respectfully a continuance of this item.
Do you want me to?
I think you need to open up for
public comment?
other public comments on this matter.
Do we have anybody that would like to make a public comment on this particular case before we bring it to commission?
On just the continuance.
I can understand why the gentleman would like to have the tree removed, but I'd like to make a couple of comments about the tree in general.
Could you, we're just going to take public comment, Melanie, on whether or not this should be continued to another time.
Okay.
Because
That's all.
when we finally hear it, that's what the time
Yeah.
we give.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
So you will be deciding now, right, where you're going to put it on the agenda and when?
Correct.
Okay,
So if you have a
that's great.
comment on whether or not you think it's okay to continue or not, that's what we're hearing in the
Okay,
public right now.
That's great. Yeah, go ahead
Thank
and
you.
continue.
Okay. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to comment on whether this is continued or not? Do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to make a comment as to whether this is continued or not? No, okay. With that, let's bring it back to commission. Would anybody like to comment, lead off the discussion? on whether to continue this item.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think we could go ahead and continue it for a future agenda item, whether it's next month or the following month.
I agree.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Would anyone like to propose a motion that we do need a motion, right,
Yes,
to
we do.
continue this item? So would anybody like to propose a motion?
I would. Do we have a preference? I know we have a lot of things coming up potentially for October. Are we okay to go ahead and have it for the October meeting? Does the commission?
We were ready today.
Yeah, so
that's okay. Yep.
we'll have it locked and loaded, so
Okay.
that should be good.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we continue. Oh, am I?
You've done that.
Pardon me? Let me pull it back up so I have the exact tree. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the tree on Torrey and hear it for the October meeting.
I second it.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey. Yes. Commissioner Montmorency. Yes. Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay. Our first item of business today is orders of business or agenda items that require city council, board, or commission discussion, debate, direction to staff and/or action. Our first item on our business agenda today is the topic of considerations regarding pickleball in Upper Forest Hill Park. I'd like to just note, I think that we'll have a presentation from city staff regarding the background of the courts and the use of the courts. I just want everyone to know that we do not have on the agenda to make any decisions about future policies or implementation of policies regarding the pickleball courts. Today's session is focused on us, the commission, just learning what the history has been at the pickleball courts and what some of the issues are that we need to consider. And we certainly will have a process that includes everybody's input. You will have a chance to public comment today, but I just want everybody to know that we are not taking any action on this topic. Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tom Ford, work in Public Works, and Justin Ono, City Forester, and myself have begun addressing this. So as we did want to start with the background, kind of a summary of how we got to where we are. So the two courts that are located in Upper Forest Hill Park had primarily been used for tennis prior to 2013. That's when pickleball, the striping for pickleball was introduced onto the courts. That allowed up to 2 games of pickleball, which is up to 8 people, while simultaneously having up to 4 people on the other half of the courts for tennis. Fast forward to 2021, at the Forest and Beach Commission meeting, the striping of 2 additional pickleball areas on the second half of the courts was approved. If it were only pickleball being played, and if the courts were full, there would then be up to 16 possible people playing at once. The decision of the Forest and Beach Commission came following the results of a brief survey that had been put out to the community in various ways. We're not suggesting that an updated survey be released. We think that we've spoken with a ton of folks who are interested in the matter. We believe that their opinions are fairly straightforward. We think we understand what the issue is, what matters are at hand. Just to do our due diligence, we did in attachment 1 in the agenda in the staff report. It's the staff report of the 2021 Forest and Beach Commission meeting.
Justin, can you scroll up?
And so at that time in 2021, the action by the commission, it did not include any policy direction for regulating the pickleball usage on the courts any different than it regulated tennis. Currently, the only sign in the courts that references, well, actually, there's not any signs on the courts that reference open hours. If you were to go to Lower Forest Hill Park, right by the playground. That's the only place in Forest Hill Park where there's any reference to open hours, and it says open sunrise to sunset. And then the rules that are posted at the pickleball or tennis courts that reference timeframes for games indicate no more than 1 hour for doubles or a half hour for singles, whether it be for pickleball or tennis. So there's no differentiation there. There is a separate sign posted on the courts in 2 different areas that reads, "Please do not hit tennis balls against the walls," and that's the extent of the city signage in Upper Forest Hill Park by the courts. Since 2021, there has been escalated attention regarding the matter of noise in relation to pickleball usage on the courts. And then last month, on August 8th, City Council recommended that this item be addressed by Forest and Beach Commission. And again, in attachment 2, should anyone want to take a look at the staff report, it's very brief, but that would be attachment 2. And I wanted to touch on the ultimate goal of this. Following our due diligence of hearing, from the folks who would like to speak and, gathering information, the ultimate goal will be to recommend a set of reasonable guidelines or rules or policies to the City Council. Any guidelines or rules or policies should consider input from, this is in no particular order, from pickleball players, from local residents, particularly those within earshot of the courts, and tennis players, as well as, of course, considerations regarding the cost of any possible implementation. Justin and I wanted to mention that there's no lack of ways to address the sound matter. This has come up in innumerable amount of jurisdictions and cities, even local cities. And even USA Pickleball, which is the governing body of the sport nationwide, they discuss a multitude of possible approaches. Many of them are they're posted right on their website. Folks have discussed from regulation of the pickleball materials, which would alter the pitch of the sound, to surrounding courts with noise abating materials, the regulation of playable hours. There have been a multitude of approaches. However, it would be staff's recommendation that the discussion of which approach to take should only be considered after conducting a sound study, the reason for which we're about to get to when we address the general plan. But that would help us determine the extent to which sound produced by park goers utilizing the courts complies with our own sound guidelines found in the general plan, which does include a noise element. At that point, we'll of course have a more holistic set of information in hand, and then that's the time that we think that it would be appropriate to discuss possible courses of action. If you could just scroll to attachment 3, please. And we'll go through these in just a moment. We had just wanted to mention that we have met with at least a dozen people thus far, Justin and myself, community members and pickleball players alike. They have been fantastic and unbelievably helpful. They have invited us to their homes to spend time on the courts. They've been very involved and very helpful, and we wanted to acknowledge that. I didn't want to include quotes, or we had decided not to include any quotes or anything from people because we knew that they would show up and speak for themselves. But we did think it was important to just name what some of the common themes were that time after time, person after person had mentioned. They had oftentimes, folks had brought up exercise. They had brought up the number of people who were there and the wide array of people who utilized the park. They had brought up the level of sound and the duration of the sound, including hours per day. They had brought up the sound coming from the courts as it relates to the general plan guidelines for noise and neighborhood character, which we'll take a look at in just a moment, signage and parking. Those were just consistent throughout.
Tom, I have a question. Of those pain points, do you have a sense that they're equal? Are there some that are more bothersome than others? There's a bunch there, right? Sound, number of people, parking, right?
Signage was the least of which was brought up, but parking, sound, the number of people, and exercise were all relatively consistent throughout people's comments. But of course, we're about to hear from those people, so they can speak for themselves. And lastly, before we get into the general plan, Justin and I had met with the city of Monterey, in addition to contacting USA Pickleball, and they had immediately responded to us. They have initiatives posted on their website right now because they understand that many jurisdictions are going through this same process. So if those conversations continue to be fruitful, we will continue to learn more. The whole point is there's a lot to take in, and people care about it very much, and we're doing our best to do our due diligence here. I guess I'll cover the parts of the general plan that are not in the noise element, and I'm just going to be reading them right off the screen. In the land use and community character element, it says, to preserve the residential village character and perpetuate a balance of land uses compatible with local resources and the environment. And all the rest of the ones we'll read are all highlighted. I forgot to highlight that first one. To provide accessible, safe, and well-maintained parks, open spaces, and active recreation facilities. Provide and manage a system of parks and recreation facilities that serve the needs of residents and visitors. User groups to participate in the provision, development, and maintenance of parks, open space, and recreational facilities. Our user groups, the folks who play pickleball, have done this. They have gone above and beyond, actually, in even offering to do landscaping surrounding the courts. So, a lot of people involved here. Moving on to the P77, enhance and provide park facilities to accommodate a broad range of users, including children and seniors, which those courts do. And then there was a subsection of that same element regarding Forest Hill Park. This park provides opportunities for active types of uses. The Forest Hill Park includes 2 tennis courts, basketball hoops, horseshoe pits, so on and so forth. In addition to on-street parking, the Forest Hill Park has 4 on-site parking spaces located by the tennis courts.
Sorry.
And then in the public facilities and services element, under the goals, objectives, and policies, to recognize the unique social, cultural, and recreational aspirations and activities which contribute to the vitality of Carmel-by-the-Sea, to provide a range of public and semi-public facilities and programs responsive to those aspirations, to provide public services to ensure each resident a safe, healthful, and attractive living environment, to maintain both facilities and programs so as to exemplify the highest standards for the community. We found those to be very relevant no matter what perspective someone takes on the matter. And then I'm going to toss it over to Justin to go over some aspects of the noise element that pertain to our discussion.
Thanks, Tom. So this is really the whole part of the general plan involving, every kind of noise. They've, as you'll see in a table coming up, that they did studies around town to see what is acceptable levels of noise in different parts of town. So the noise element is an evaluation of the present and future noise in Carmel. So not just what was going on, but thinking ahead what could be coming up. Discussion of the major noise sources in Carmel and suggestions for their control. And that's a good point here, that uses the noise element is a planning tool to create future policies in terms of exactly what we're doing now. This element is guiding us to see whether pickleball fits within the acceptable range, or if we need to augment what's there to fit within the noise element. It's establishing compatibility guidelines for land use and noise. So not just, it's a park, if you think about a park, they're loud, but really what's acceptable and what is allowable within the regulations. Again, it touches on the village character. you know, oh, I got it. As opposed to somewhere like downtown Monterey, where it's going to be a little more noisy than tucked up into Forest Hill Park. The goals and objectives and policies to preserve Carmel's overall quiet environment, reduce noise in Carmel to levels compatible with existing and future land uses, and prevent the increase of noise levels in areas where noise-sensitive uses are located. To support programs to reduce community noise levels where possible to levels acceptable to the community. The noise ordinance shall clearly address all identified sources of noise to simplify enforcement. It calls to monitor sound levels on a routine basis in order to achieve, through a noise ordinance, reduction of unacceptable noise within Carmel. And we do have a noise ordinance on the books. Apply the noise and land use compatibility standards as shown in Table 9.2. That's what I was talking about, the areas around town. We'll get to that on the next page. Require acoustical reports and evaluation of noise mitigation measures for projects that would substantially increase noise. And we're just kind of trying to figure out whether pickleball fits within that. It's not a project, but whether we need to, going forward to see what the noise level really is. As Tom brought up the sound study. And what standard noise mitigation measures shall not preclude creative solutions addressing unique situations where there are conflicts between noise levels and land use. This might be one of those. It calls to control unnecessary, excessive, and annoying noises within the city where not preempted by federal or state control. Many methods have been developed for evaluating community noise to account for, among other things, the influence of periodic individual loud events and the community response to changes in the community noise environment. Trying to grow with a changing and adapting community. So this is the Table 9.2, land use compatibility for noise environments. Residential low-density, single-family, duplex mobile homes. The normally acceptable decibel range is 50 to 60. Conditionally acceptable is 55 to 70. Wait, why are there two different? Why are there two? Anyways, and then in parks, normally acceptable is 50 to 70, and there's no conditionally acceptable level. So you'll notice on Table 9.3, decibel levels were taken under sound study. This was 2007 to see what the ambient noise and the normal noise was at those times, ranging anywhere from 45 to 65 decibels, 40 to 65 decibels. No, major, I kind of covered that. Okay. Control or abatement of a noise problem can typically be accomplished by in any one or a combination of three ways. One, reduce or remove completely the noise source, protect the receiver of the noise, or block the path between the source of the noise and the receiver to reduce the noise level. All of these options can be used to reduce the noise exposure in Carmel. I think that makes a lot of sense here, and I think there are many possibilities that we could take into account to study to figure out what would be the best option. So, all the way to the end there.
Almost there.
So this again touched on the land use compatibility. The land use compatibility table used in conjunction with the noise measurements will therefore provide additional input in decision-making processes. So we want to know what the sound is and what it's being directed towards, whether it's towards the downtown business district or in this case, single-family residential homes. In Section 8.56 of the city's municipal code includes a noise ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to prohibit unnecessary, excessive, and annoying noises from all sources in the city and provide guidance as to what uses fall within that group. The standards used in determining if a noise is a nuisance include, but are not limited to, the volume, intensity, and duration of the noise, the number of persons affected by the noise, the use and zoning of the area within which the noise emanates, the day and time, or the time of day or night the noise occurs, whether the origin of the noise is natural or unnatural, whether the noise is recurrent, intermittent, or constant, and whether the noise is produced by a commercial or non-commercial activity.
I think that's it.
I think that summarizes what the major considerations are in terms of the general plan and the noise ordinance as it relates to the noise part of pickleball, which is, as Tom put in his conversations with people, was at the top of a lot of people's lists as one of the recurring themes of complaints.
And the last point that we had wanted to touch on was regarding a sound study, which appears as though the general plan would dictate would be a necessary next step. We've reached out to several consultants. I guess the first time was almost 2 weeks ago. We have not been able to get an estimate. We took our best guess and we wrote $3,000, and the closer we got to this meeting, I feared that we may have undershot. I don't think we need, I found a comprehensive study that was 77 pages long. I do not think that it is necessary. I will leave that to you all to determine the extent to which we conduct a noise study, but I can't imagine the 77-page comprehensive report took, I can't imagine that being cheap. But a sound study would likely cost several $1,000s, and we would need to reallocate money from other line items. So we don't have an unlimited pot, but we do think it would be important to conduct a sound study, and we wanted to. I think that concludes our presentation.
Have you looked up like what's typical? Because like Google searching, I mean, you can see that pickleball courts are 70-ish decibels, 70 to 100, right? That's some of that's out around, but that's with no sound barriers. So
Yeah, even pickleball.com has, pickleball.com,
Yeah.
USA Pickleball website, it indicates that the decibels can be 80 decibels. But if I'm not mistaken, I had thought that was measured right next to a paddle and a ball. And I believe all of the other measurements that were listed in 9.2 or 9.3 were taken at the edge of the property. So that would presumably be the location where they would take any measurements, not holding something right up to the paddles and balls. Did I answer your question?
I'm just wondering, I think there might be good information on average decibel of pickleball, depending upon the number of players and how far away, that I'm just wondering if we could look at, other jurisdictions have dealt with this, right? And
Sure.
so I had the opportunity to meet with the Parks and Recs chair of Yountville, right? They've been working on this for many years. They seem to have a great solution that's different than I think what's been implemented in Pacific Grove.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be helpful to just seek as a next step, right? Let's get some of the plans and understand where is it working well and where is it worked well?
Yeah.
And those might just be good models for us
That makes sense.
to look at.
That makes
right?
sense.
Also, I think the nature of where the courts are is important, right? Like, for example, courts that are next to a community center or a parking lot or a retail area are a little bit different than courts that are nestled, as the Parks and Recs in Yountville said, intimately in a residential neighborhood, which they have in Yountville, and I think they've had some good success with their program. He said he's willing to come share with you or share with us what they're doing. Is one example.
It actually is almost a perfect mirror of the Monterey Vista neighborhood, where the houses are in an elevated position above the Via Praiza tennis courts, and that was kind of the big model for Monterey. Is the VP tennis courts were the main point of contention between the Monterey Pickleball Association and the Resident Association, and that's why we reached out to Shannon with City of Monterey and got some good information from her.
And I think clearly looking at lots of places, right? I just think
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things we heard at the city council meeting was a concern about just restricting days or times didn't necessarily solve the whole problem.
Yeah.
And so I think looking for opportunities, looking at some of these best practices where let's look at a couple of places and what models they've implemented. They all have learnings. Like, for example, just my conversation in Yountville, right? Here are the things that worked, here are the things that didn't. You know, I think everybody sort of says we're splitting a baby a little bit, which is hard, but let's find the best way to do that where everybody can feel good about the outcome.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, what I heard was the noise. We talk a lot about the balls and the paddles, but I've heard, you know, from Yountville, the perspective was that it's equally the balls and the paddles and just the social, the happy social nature of pickleball, right? That there's two noise contributors here to be addressed, and so, you know, some of these soundproofing is the wrong word, but some of the sound barrier, some of the things that have been done, you know, I think in Yountville's case, they said it was $20,000 to put a audio fencing, I think is what they called it, around 3/4 of but it seems to have helped quite a lot. So
I certainly think there's more that we can continue and will continue to learn from other. Again, this is not the first time that this has been addressed, but there is a lot to take in.
And we're still reaching out to other jurisdictions and other places that have been dealing with this. So that was just the first, because I am close with the City of Monterey Recreation, so we're going to be reaching out to a lot of other cities.
do other folks have comments they'd like to ask questions before we go to public comment? No? Maybe that might be an interesting next step, is at the next meeting we could, maybe there could be sort of a sharing of some different examples of how communities have managed this.
Yeah,
and it seems like there's some different approaches, right?
Sure.
And I think if we could talk to the people who've designed and who have direct experience kind of designing and implementing those programs and their pros and cons. I don't know. I know in the case of Yountville, they'd be willing to come share with us their experience. Maybe we could ask, you know, we could find, there's other places that have done it too.
Yeah, as best as possible, roughly comparable
Where it's a similar
situations.
setup,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you. It's super helpful to have the background.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. With that, we'll open it to public comment.
Hi, my name's John Kratchmer. I'm a Carmel-by-the-Sea resident, and I live with my wife on Junipero, right across from the tennis courts, pickleball courts. I first wanted to say I'm not anti-pickleball. And I have absolutely nothing against people who play pickleball. They're getting great exercise. They're having fun with friends and family. Nothing, and they're not evil. So this isn't about them, and it's not about pickleball. So when we purchased our home in 2017, these courts were largely tennis courts. Pickleball really hadn't boomed, taken off yet then. And we never once had a concern when it was just the tennis courts. But the bottom line is pickleball and tennis are not the same games. Pickleball is much louder, as you know. And that's not only the overall noise level, but the pitch is much higher. And it's an impulsive popping sound, and that's the big issue to people. So it's not just the noise, it's the impulse and the pitching sound. So I mean, in my opinion, you know, pickleball was not meant to be played in residential neighborhoods. And back when this was allowed, we didn't know a lot about pickleball, but now we know a lot more. So I think it's, you know, we're in different times now. So, and this is a huge issue across the nation, as you've mentioned. If you Google pickleball noise, you'll get millions of hits. I mean, it's all over the country. So there are actually lawyers now who are full-time on pickleball only, which is crazy, but that's what we know, what we're seeing. So, but so again, I'm not anti-pickleball. I'm just anti-pickleball across from my house. So, and my question to anybody that's going to come up here and talk about the merits of pickleball, which I'm going to agree with everything they say probably, is would you want it right across the street from your house? Because that's the issue what we're dealing with here. It's not pickleball's an evil game. It's not pickleball players or evil, you know, people. It's pickleball is not meant to be played in residential neighborhoods. So, and in my opinion, allowing pickleball to be played there does violate the Carmel noise ordinances. And when you just sit down and read the general coastal land use plan, or whatever that plan's called, I mean, in my opinion, just allowing pickleball to be played there is totally in conflict with the spirit of the plan. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, but again, that's just my opinion. So my proposed solution would be twofold. One is we return these courts to tennis courts only, and the city should find, alternate site where you can put pickleball courts in a non-residential neighborhood and or indoors. They have both of those in my other residence in Madison, Wisconsin, and people love them. So, and there's no complaints about residents, and the noise. So, we also have 33 neighbors in the neighborhood that have signed up in support of our concerns and our proposals. We have many other neighbors that also support us but want to be left behind the scenes. They don't want to get caught in the public crossfire, which I fully understand. So anyway, countless communities have dealt with this issue and taken care of their residents that live by these pickleball courts. So we're asking you to do the same thing here. So in closing, I would just say, I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel across the country and into many other countries, and there's no question in my mind, this is the best city on the planet. So, and that's why we chose to retire here. So this place is unmatched in beauty and serenity and character, and I love this place. But our quality of life has been significantly damaged by allowing pickleball to be played right across the street from our house. It starts at 9 in the morning and it often goes till after 8 at night, and it's just pop, 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 pop. Go to bed, get up the next morning, rinse, lather, repeat, same thing over and over again every day. So EPA, and I'm almost done. So EPA says any noise level above 55 decibels can be an annoyance that disturbs daily activities. I've seen all the studies that you reference as well online. Pickleball is definitely way in excess of that. So our house is about 125, maybe 150 feet from the pickleball courts, depending on where you measure it from. So we're way closer than 500 feet. So I'm simply asking you to give all of us neighbors who have all invested millions of dollars into this community, give us our serene neighborhood back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Susie Prairie. I grew up in Carmel. I played tennis at Forest Hill Park in the 1950s with my father. So it was blacktop then, it wasn't. Anyway, I am a pickleball player. I was instrumental in getting the courts put in initially. I came to the commission. You guys voted for nothing to put them in. I actually literally, with 2 helpers from the Public Works, literally painted the line. So I'm well invested in it. We as a group are not adversarial. It is presented that pickleball and neighbors and tennis players, no, we are not an adversarial group. We're very amenable to finding some sort of middle ground here where the many people that play, mainly a lot on the weekends, we have whole families, kids, grandparents, everybody playing. I understand the angst of the neighbors and appreciate that, but I think we can come to a common ground and keep the activities going there as well as respecting their issues. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hubby. Thank you all for seeing us, and I'm really impressed that you guys are taking your time for this. I cannot believe the research the Public Works Department has taken on both of our behalves. And I want to reiterate that we are here to be good stewards. I'm a pickleball player. I was born in Carmel. I live in Carmel. I used to collect banana slugs in the forest at Forest Hill, then play tennis, and now pickleball. And I just feel so blessed to be able to retire where I was born and play pickleball. And we want to do everything possible to make it work for everybody. An example is Pacific Grove, where the courts all sit naked 4 days a week, 24/7, and it's just a sin that we use these public courts in the proposal of cutting them down because a neighbor lives there. Because I've lived next to the courts a lot of my life, and it's been great. But I appreciate your time, your energy, the research, and I want to reiterate that we want to be good stewards. Like last time that we were at City Hall meeting, and some woman got up and said she loves her morning coffee on Sunday mornings, and the noise drives her nuts. So maybe we could compromise and start a little later on Sunday mornings. I mean, this is the sort of compromise I want to work with, and I want to work with everybody, and thank you so much for sitting with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I meant to show you, this is called a noise reducing ball. It's called the Librarian, which I think is a very clever name for these people, but that's the kind of noise it makes. And it plays just as well as a regular pickleball. So this might be some sort of alternative as well.
Thank you. Do we have any other people that would like to make a public comment?
Good afternoon. My name is Didier Diaz, and I live close to the Forest Hill Park courts. Pickleball in its current form should not be allowed. While it may be a great activity, the noise it creates is a known nuisance that has no place in a town that not only values its peace and quiet, but actively promotes it. USA Pickleball, which has been mentioned, the organization responsible for pickleball, actually acknowledges the issue. Here are some quotes from their website. People in and around the sport will admit it. Pickleball noise can be disruptive for communities more sensitive to sounds. We acknowledge that, said Carl Schmitz, USA Pickleball's Managing Director of Equipment, Standards and Facility Development. They go on to say, our position is don't break ground before speaking with us. We advocate early planning with a proper assessment to understand what materials may be needed to make a facility acceptable to the local community. So when you turn an existing tennis court 125 feet from residences, you're bound to have these issues. So faced actually with the same noise issue that we're encountering, the city of Centennial, Colorado created that 77-page that Mr. Ford mentioned. And here are some excerpts to it. I'm just bringing that up in case people argue that pickleball is not that annoying. As it was mentioned, pickleball noise is what is referred to, at least with the current ball, as an impulsive sound, which is a sound of short duration, usually less than 1 second, with an abrupt onset and rapid decay. Persistent impulsive sounds create annoyance because they are similar to sounds that contain important information about our environment, such as footsteps, a door opening, a tap at the window, or speech. We're sensitive to this type of sounds because they alert us to events occurring nearby that we need to respond to. Continuous false alarms, such as the popping sound created by pickleball paddle impacts, makes it difficult to relax, concentrate, or sleep soundly without disturbance, as each time a pop is heard, it draws the attention, creating distraction. So we have, on one hand, a very noisy, known to be annoying activity. And then we have Carmel, which prides itself about its peace and quiet. As it was mentioned, the overall goal for the general plan is to preserve Carmel's overall quiet environment. If you go to Carmel's, what I would call commercial website, it says things such as, be kind and considerate, take a chill attitude and respect everybody around you, avoid loud voices and noises for a relaxing, low-key atmosphere. If you go by the course, you'll see that it's not quite the case. Silence and stroll. Don't expect to be woken up by a leaf blower or weed eaters. Gas-powered tools have been banned in the city. Then we have Carmel noise regulation that prohibit what is referred to as Class D noises. And Class D noises include unnecessary, unnatural, or unusual noises or sounds created by means of human voices or animal outcry, or by any other means or method which are so annoying or which are so harsh or pronounced as to be injurious to the health, peace, and comfort of any reasonable person of normal sensitiveness working, residing, or otherwise occupied in the area. So to me, pickleball is clearly not compliant with this noise resolution, and I would love to get your take on that. So again, we have a community that values peace and quiet, and on the other hand, an activity which, as it exists today, with no protection around the court, with the balls as they are, with the paddle as they are, is extremely noisy. So I don't think the two are compatible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Graham Norton, Lorca Lane. Thank you for allowing us to speak this afternoon. It would be a misconception to think that this was the first time this has been raised, the noise and the parking dilemma. within a week of the report appearing in the Carmel Pine Cone back in September 21, letters started flowing to Harari and Rerig identifying this problem and why on earth was a research program like this not done then. Absolutely horrendous. I got a letter recently from the lawyer, the city lawyer. I'd asked him, could I see evidence of the research that you'd done? His response was quite magical. The city is allowed to paint lines on their own property. End of story. I mean, what are we paying him? $500 an hour for a contracted lawyer? Ridiculous. Anyhow, the two signs in the court that remain there and make me smile every time I walk past there every day: do not hit the tennis balls against the wall. Somebody had concern, your predecessor. For a tennis ball to be hit against a wall, the noise level is nowhere near the level that we have to put up with there. We bought our property some years before the development in Forest Hill, and all of a sudden, you've changed our lives. Why? I had a wedding reception, my wedding reception in the garden a year ago, and it was ruined by 25 people playing pickleball, screaming and shouting. Now, if you want that in your where you live, then fine. But I can't believe any one of you will agree to that. There must be, if there is a demand for this game, which I've actually played indoors, and it didn't grab me at all, I'm afraid. If there is a demand, then surely the city can accommodate some sort of mecca somewhere. I've suggested it to Tom Ford, and I believe Didier has as well, one or two places, and surely that should be a priority on your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like there's another gentleman.
Good afternoon. My name's Lauren Hughes. I live in Carmel-by-the-Sea and play pickleball occasionally at the Forest Lawn area. Sound is an issue. I think the issue of how painful that may be relative to the code that you shared today is a question, and I'm wondering whether that really requires a multi-$1,000 exercise rather than a dosimeter held by someone, you know, at the area where homes happen to be in that place, just to determine how bad that may happen to be. And I suspect there are also some things that could be done relative to noise abatement with plantings around the existing fences to make some kind of living fence. That could be a possibility that would certainly minimize that sound. I live very close, actually, to the Public Works Department, and the back of the Carmel Youth Center is obvious and audible for me. And when I'm sitting on my deck and I can hear people young people enjoying their lives, playing, shouting, making sounds probably are greater than 60 decibels, and people say, does that bother you? And I say, no. The sound of people enjoying themselves and having activity is a pleasant sound to have. So I think maybe a mitigation on the amount of sound that could be there, some measure to control that a little bit, but recognizing that that is a public park and people are utilizing that, and having some joint way to have pickleball be played and people still live there and enjoy their property would be a good thing. So that's the thought.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in chambers that would like to speak on this topic? I can't see Zoom now. Do we have people on Zoom?
No one at this time. No.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I actually would like a question, Susie, can that ball be used instead of?
It reacts almost exactly the same, just without the noise. It gets affected by the wind more. You know, a pickleball is a wiffle ball with holes in it, but this is a solid ball. So the wind affects it a little more, but otherwise, a ball is a ball.
I was curious about the parking issue. I was at a party on the beach this weekend with a couple people that live in the neighborhood, and they said that the parking was another issue. The people were parking in front of their houses, and so I was curious. I guess Tom, we did a site visit, and I should have spent more time thinking about exactly how many parking spaces were available on site. But do we know?
So if we're going by what the general plan says, it says there's 4 spaces. I think just today we saw 6 cars that were parked on the, let's see, it would be the south side of Lorca Lane. I believe if we're not counting that wood chip area in the northwest corner of Forest Hill Park, just south of that, there either 2 or 3 vehicles can park on the side of the road on the side of Forest Hill Park, and then there is a driveway, a paved driveway, so to speak, that several cars often utilized. I can't remember how many I've seen there. At least 2, so 6, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 vehicles if everyone was parked in all possible spaces. And I'm not saying that first section of 6, I'm not saying that all of those should be parked there, but that's how many cars can fit and often do.
If I can add to that comment, clearly there's not a lot of parking all the way around Forest Hill Park, both upper and lower. And in the council meeting that was, I believe, August, some of the comments, and there's a link in your packet to the audio or the video. Some of the comments were that because of the limited spaces right there, people park. They park a couple blocks away and walk. But apparently, according to the local residents, that's maybe part of the problem, is that they're making noise where they're parking, and they're taking up parking space, valuable parking spaces, and having to go to the pickleball courts. So I think that's parking. It's not just right there at the site. It's a more of a larger scale issue.
And may I mention also that the main parking area that can fit 4 to 6 vehicles, it's unpaved, it's loose gravel. I know that issue of paving it or leaving it as is has come up before, but for what it's worth, that's the condition of the ground there.
Well, the present setup, right? I mean, I just say the way the courts are presently set up is that you can have 16 people on the court, right? And you can potentially have 16 people waiting to get on the court, right?
Right.
So that's a fair amount more people,
Sure.
right, than what if everybody was doubled up on it's twice the amount of people that you would have in a tennis situation.
That's right. And then, yes.
So I think it does beg questions of how have other communities handled this, right? I think the Yountville Parks and Rec Commissioner was telling me that their courts are nestled in a neighborhood, so maybe not totally dissimilar from what we have, but they've had to invest in noise reduction measures like these, I think he called them audio fencing. It would be important to understand, even with that, what is the net sound impact? Like, is that sufficient or not? I think that's a really important question.
Sure.
He also said be careful of solutions that don't involve structural sound reduction, that the quiet balls don't work for people who are advanced players. They have such demand there that they have, someone mentioned in their public comment, they have moved to, you can't be on the courts, before 8 a.m. On any day. They've moved to no longer sun up to sundown, but an 8 a.m. start, and they actually have 8 a.m. until noon, scheduled by level, because they've had a lot of demand. So on some days it's some mornings are advanced players, some mornings are intermediate, some mornings are beginning player. But they've come up with an interesting system that seems to be working well.
Yeah.
He said they've also created what they call the community liaison group. It's comprised of both people in the neighborhood and pickleball players. So that is reporting into like their Parks and Recs Commission. And he said in Yountville, these community liaison groups have been really, really helpful because you end up with a bit of like self-monitoring. So when, it ends up mitigating, the players want to play and the residents also want the noise reduced. And so there's a way that people can work together on a creative solution.
Right.
I think all of that presumes that the noise reduction measures you would deploy would be sufficient to reduce the present level of annoyance.
Right.
I mean, I think what's remarkable is that this has been going on for years, and it's basically unregulated. I mean, when we went out there, there's not even signage. People are basically playing from, sun up to sundown. That part's surprising to me.
And that was noted many times. I don't want to shy away from the fact that several residents, I'm thankful that they had invited me over to come and sit down. They had said, hey, we brought this up several years ago. Hey, this hasn't been addressed. So we're not shying away from the fact that this has been going on for several years. But I can't go back and change things that haven't been done. But I think we're going to give it its time now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I would just say from a commission perspective to those residents, we can't change the past, but we certainly can try and come up with a solution now, right? That all of the community will support, right? So, yeah.
Is there any other place, Bob, that pickleball, within the city, that pickleball courts could be? Could they use any part of Rio Park?
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Once you got rid of all those logs, of
I think the short answer is no.
Sunset Center parking lot. If it becomes available.
On the roof of the multi.
A lot of bids for that.
And Rio Park because of access.
There's many other issues happening, considering Rio Park at the moment. So that would be a last resort. That's a whole different process. There's a lot of obstacles.
A lot of stakeholders with their hands in Rio Park.
Now, I'm not saying that could never, ever happen. I would suggest that we continue to focus, do our due diligence, get as much information as we can, try to come up with a policy, procedures, restrictions, or whatever that we can do. And if there's no other option, then we could revisit Rio Park. But I would not recommend that as a first option. It's not.
Understandably, but I do think there's a clear concern from residents immediately adjacent that the level is high and persistent, maybe not every day, but on that even if we would deploy sound reducing measures, we would want to be confident that those would at least be closer to being more compatible with our city noise ordinance, right?
And again, that feels like, I know every environment's unique, but it feels like a knowable question, right?
Yeah.
Like if you put up these, what you hang on the walls, et cetera, what's the dampening effect of that?
Well, I think Yountville might have a noise study. I mean, they said they would come share their plan, but I know they've done pre and post, like what it was before and what it is now. So I agree, there has to be evidence-based metrics of
You'd prefer to not spend the money and then realize that it's not.
You would want to make certain, right, that if you implemented that it was going to work.
I certainly think that that's data that we'll be able to draw.
Yeah.
We're still doing our data gathering, but I'm sure there is no lack of verifiable data. What would this intervention cause at this distance? What has this, I think there's certainly reports out there, and I think that may be something that may be recommended for us to bring back next month, perhaps, and speak with folks in Yountville and other places.
And I think it's important that it's a like like situation, like a like for like they need to be similar environments. I think you can't compare our location to a location that's maybe on the back end of a community center or something like that, right? It really needs to be where you're nestled in a neighborhood.
They also, they also need to know that there's 2 tennis courts that will be converted versus a spot that's got, 12 tennis courts converted. Even though it's in a residential area, it's still going to be totally different.
Yeah.
Like Oswego tried that with a little larger area with the sound preventing matrix around the fencing. There still wasn't enough. So that in itself, obviously, there's more than one way to look at that.
Yeah.
I have a question and a comment. One of the ladies had mentioned, and I'm not sure if we're able to, in the interim while we're doing studies, perhaps, and going back and forth, is it possible to look at putting some time constraints as an interim while we determine some of these studies and look into some of these things? Can we?
If I may, yeah, I believe that that's absolutely a possible mitigating measure.
Okay.
And part of what Chair Brzezowski was saying is let's get the information from other agencies. I think we've reached out to some local agencies. We have a lot more homework to do. Let's see what other agencies are doing. Maybe that is part of the solution. Maybe that's the full solution. Maybe that's not an applicable solution here. So, but yes, there's a full, like as Mr. Ford was saying, there's a full gamut of possible remedies to the existing problem.
Are we looking to go through all of the remedies first and then look at this, or is there anything we would be prepared to do in the near future just to try to sort of accommodate both groups where we're still allowing it as is, but we perhaps give some time constraints that aren't from dawn till dusk? Could we try to look at, I mean, this is our city who's able to make these sorts of decisions. Could we just, as not as a permanent, but while we're going through this process, could we look at that? Could we look at?
It might be useful to have one session where we at least look at all the models so that we could, because I think it's a great suggestion, right? We could go to city council and say, here's the things that are being studied, but one thing is clear, could we do something temporarily here? It would be perhaps better, more well received if it was in the context of having a little bit more study than we have presently.
I believe the city council requested that the Forest and Beach come up with a proposal based on input from the community and from the staff. What's a good game plan here? And then we'll present that back to the council with the recommendation of the Forest and Beach Commission.
Do we have a time sense of how long this might take?
I think it's up to us to develop a schedule, but it's up to us to, but I think the idea was that next.
I know that Tom and Justin have looked into some different things. I just have you come back with any idea if we're looking at noise, how long it might take to employ a group, a contractor that could come out and take a look at that? Is there any sense that you have on timing of how long your studies might take?
Sure, great relevant question. I guess I'll start with when our Assistant City Administrator Brandon Swanson had brought this up. I believe his ideal time frame would be around the turn of the year. Yeah. He had mentioned that. I think that's a good benchmark, a good broad benchmark, several months. We don't want this to go. We've heard time and time again of municipalities that have taken years, a decade, or 7, 8 years. We don't want it to get to that. I don't think anyone does. Okay. I like people's creative solutions that have even been brought up today. Maybe we don't need to spend several $1,000s. Perhaps a rudimentary, noise measuring device, even though we're not sound engineers, perhaps we could take some rudimentary measurements just to that, and combined with data of reports that have already been published, we might be able to get a pretty good sense of where we are. But to get back to the time frame, I don't want to establish this myself, but I think that a couple of months is reasonable.
And if I can add 2 cents here. When this first came, we talked to Brandon and staff. I think the intent was we're going to launch it today, which we're doing today, without any intention of wrapping it up today. This is not a one and done, for sure. So, and Commissioner Brzezowski kind of mentioned that at the beginning, we're not making any final decisions today. Let's hear what the issues are. Let's think about what game plans. And I think our initial inkling was to come back. This is like a 3-session discussion. So next time we can come back. I think there was a request for like, what is a list of possible options? The time, other noise restriction, there's more signage. There's a lot of different possible options. And then I don't believe at the second meeting, we're gonna start locking in a final. So maybe this is gonna be a little bit of an iterative process. Maybe by the third meeting near the end of the year, we'll help start to gel with a good game plan that the community commission starts to feel comfortable with, and then package that up and bring that to the council.
I do think it's an both urgent and important issue, though, because it does seem to be affecting some of our residents today, right? So this isn't something, and it sounds like for whatever reason, it hasn't been brought to this level of attention in the city previously. So, being able to look at some of the best practices that are in jurisdictions around us, right, I think is really important. That shouldn't be super hard. Like by the next meeting, we should be able to share that, I would think. The data, the evidence-based data around what is sound with two groups of pickleball playing versus 4 groups of pickleball playing, right? The sound differences between the number of people that are on the courts. What is the sound reduction when you put some of these structural things in place, right? Some of those things we should have some evidence-based data on that I think could help us within the next 2 months come up with a plan. And I really love your idea of maybe while we're working on that, suggesting to City Council to potentially even consider some timing. One of the things that you'll see if you look at the models around us is that most people that have started to have policies around pickleball do not have a sunrise to sunset policy.
Yeah.
There is a little bit later in the morning start, and so a suggestion to the really active pickleball community, if it's organized in Carmel, which it seems like maybe it is, maybe some of that could just come organically, from people who are playing regularly to just start a little later. But I think that's the kind of thing where I think it would potentially demonstrate some really goodwill on this half part of the pickleball community to the residents that are having, maybe want to have coffee at 9 and not 7, right? So it's just, those are little things that I think that we can work together on.
And Chair Brzezowski, I think this might be a good segue and an opportunity to let the residents know or ask for continued assistance from the residents. Regardless of what position somebody has, I can't tell you how much time was saved. We have an unbelievably intelligent group of residents here who have sent me documents, reports, studies, clippings. It's unbelievable, really. So when we're discussing these kinds of reports and data that we want to gather, I would encourage and welcome folks to continue to send those towards myself and Justin. We try to put our names and addresses, email addresses out there, tford@ci.carmel.ca.us. You can just email them to me. Justin and I share these documents all the time. We would encourage that. So, and also I would like to make another plug for tennis players. We've been trying to reach out to tennis players. I think it's important that folks don't feel left out.
Yeah, we've heard anecdotal evidence of tennis players feeling spurned by the fact that the pickleball players have taken over, but it's just kind of, we've heard stories. If anyone plays a lot of tennis and feels upset that their courts are gone, we want to hear from that too. Every single avenue that we just want to hear from everybody.
So it sounds like, is it okay to agree that for next meeting we'll have a couple of implementation models from jurisdictions that have maybe similar situations as ours, and I think Yountville has volunteered to be one for us if we'd like, and maybe if we could identify a couple. I think also the evidence-based data on sound would be really useful to do some research there in terms of both number of players on a court, right, versus and pre and post, like implementation of some of the structural sound things, I think would be really useful.
Yeah.
I just, it makes me wonder if it's a combination of, do we need to, instead of having 4 pickleball courts going at once, do you just have 2 at a time and sound barriers? I'm just trying to see if there's a solution workable within the current court structure. But those 2 areas of exploration seem like they would be useful. Is there anything anybody would like to add to that?
I guess I sort of agree with Tamara that, I think it'd be pretty easy for us to just put some basic hours out there, throw up a sign, and just, we could give people some level of, relief. It doesn't, we haven't heard from folks that, early in the morning, people are talking about at 9 o'clock it starts. But, I also was talking to somebody who said, the weekend, like weekend mornings, obviously probably the pickleball folks want to be out on weekend mornings, but, trying to box those hours in a little bit in the interim, I think that would make sense to me. Because I've heard from the pickleball folks that they're amenable to that.
I completely agree. I think the thought here is more,
I don't want to wait.
More data.
I don't want to wait for all
I don't think we need to wait 3 months, but I would be careful to not just put something out next week or at the next city council meeting that we're putting hours on the court. Because one of the things that we heard from the pickleball players at city council before it came to us was we had several people comment that the restrictions on hours that had been implemented in Pacific Grove and Monterey weren't the right way to skin the cat, and that's what caused me to sort of just look for some other places. And I think we've in our community right now, when we're quick to respond without sufficient sort of community input, we're seeing some negative impacts of that. That being said, I fully support the idea of having some hours. I just think after our next session would be a good time for us to surface or to recommend that to.
Just as a logistical point, if I may, the Forest and Beach Commission does have the authority to be able to make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah.
City Council did ask that the ultimate policy or guideline decision would be brought to them, but in the meantime, the Forest and Beach Commission does have the authority to regulate hours, for example.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to know. I mean, obviously now the structure of these meetings is such that now we're sitting here talking to ourselves and we don't have the public weighing in anymore. And I don't know if we can bring it back to the public, but I was just about to ask for, I would be curious to know, like, what if we said, hey, like, let's just make a motion that no pickleball before 9 a.m. I mean, maybe people are like, hey, that's just not addressing my problem. And like, this is a waste of time. Let's solve the actual problem. But anyway.
To be clear, there are no motions, no formal action, but you could certainly open it up. It's the chair's prerogative, want to open up for comments about the possibility of adding the sign.
So we can't take action today because that's not an agenda. It's not agendized.
Yeah, right.
But I guess what I was curious about for the folks that are here today is there anything else in addition to, as we're doing our research? So one is we're going to look for what are some best practices that other jurisdictions have implemented, find a couple of places and how they've handled it, right? And I think you're going to see reduced hours is probably not, some sort of hours restriction seems to be a part of most plans I've seen. 2 is the data around this evidence-based data around sound. Those 2 areas, is there anything else that's missing that anybody here in Chambers would like to see included in the analysis for next month? Okay, come up one by one, that's fine.
Thank you.
But just...
So just to follow on a couple of points there, I think your continued reference to evidence-based is key and critical on that. I mean, the residents who live near there are concerned about that, but until we have something that indicates what the decibel level is, which may or may not violate what our general plan happens to be, then we're just kind of talking, and we don't really know what that might happen to be. So I'd be uncomfortable with the decision being made without any evidence to support that beyond anecdotal stuff. As a sometime pickleball player, it's very busy in the mornings. It really doesn't go sunset to sunrise to sunset. Busy in the mornings when people are doing stuff, and less so in the afternoons. The more aggressive players play more in the morning. The more casual players play in the afternoons a little bit more. We will occasionally go there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock at night, and no one is there.
Right.
And to play, have an hour's worth of pickleball, and then dinner and a glass of wine later in that process. So I think minimizing that time, if it's early in the morning, could be something that could be helpful. It certainly wouldn't bother me, because I'm not going to get up at 7 o'clock to play pickleball. Maybe somebody else is, but the evidence is going to be key on that. To what is the decibel level at the impacted homes, and how's that going to be there? Because that's really got to be key to decide what's going on.
And I think there's evidence that we can leverage that's not just in our town, right? Like we can, I'm sure there's, if we look, there has to be a lot of evidence-based data now that's been studied.
Right.
We do need to look at our location specifically, but I think we can find other examples that are similar to our situation, and it would be helpful to just understand what those levels are.
Our physical area is down sort of down, it's not at ground level. So some Yountville is flat.
Yep.
Whatever's there is going to be at that same level. We're down, you have that wall, and you have more ground up in that process. So maybe that captures that sound a little bit. That's why they put freeways under lower levels. So
It's also not just the decibel level, right? It's also the sort of the constant,
the repetitive
nature of it.
Yeah. But I think if it's below a certain threshold, that's probably less of an issue, right?
It's gonna
That's how I
matter.
read
Even
the
if
plan.
it's below, it's bothering people, so we still have to.
Well, we don't
find a
know,
solution.
because we don't know, we don't
said
know how
if it
low,
is
yeah.
below.
Yeah. Okay.
May I ask you
There were-
a quick question, too? Sure. It says dawn until dusk. I mean, our noise ordinance, you're not supposed to start things that are loud until after 8. But have you found, or has anybody found, that people start playing before 8?
I live on
During the
Santa
summer?
Fe. I'm
No.
a few blocks away. I don't hear it.
I live right across the street. Rarely play before 9 o'clock.
Okay.
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 That's
So
helpful.
just to give us a sense, so 9 is
great.
usually.
That's 9's usually a typical starting point.
And I think sometimes it's hard because there's people from out of town that come in and start playing. And
Could you-
I ask people to leave.
Could you
Do you
come
wanna
up
come
to
up,
the,
sir?
sorry, I need you to come up
Yeah.
to the front if you're going to speak. Thank you.
sir.
And we'll just take a couple of more comments if you, okay, sorry. All right.
There's just an occasion where I went out. I used to live real close right next to the courts, and I heard it, and it was like 7 or 8 in the morning. I forget what it was, and it was people from out of town. And I said to them, we'd really like to have this start at 9 and stuff, and they were not happy with that. And I said, I play pickleball too. I'm going to be here at 9, and they left. But most of the time, it's not. We don't usually start. The people who are organized don't usually start till 9.
Okay.
And that's kind of a general rule with us. I'm in charge of the pickleball app that we talk on, and we talk about that specifically. So if it's before 9, it's probably not us.
Okay.
It's probably the issue.
Helpful.
I like your idea of maybe doing something now and changing and making the rules, at 9 o'clock starting. I think that's a good thing to try and help people who have to put up with that. And so,
For those
I'd
that are
like
out
to
of
see
town that might not know that's the general, that the residents tend to start at 9, knowing that the people who live near the courts, just out of respect. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
I think your idea is very good to get something going now, just that way it's we want to work with people who live here, myself being one of them, to mitigate a little bit of that, at least at the beginning, so I like that.
Anybody else, a quick comment? Okay.
What the problem is our group purchased the nets. Our group owns the net. We're not a formal group, we're just a group. And we leave the nets there for anyone to use. And this is probably what one of the problems is, because we usually start 9:30. I don't think anyone plays much past 5. I don't know, maybe they do. But it usually is people from out of town, and I will say that probably in the last 6-8 months, probably half the people that are playing there now are tourists. And they plan their whole vacation around whether they have pickleball or not, believe it or not. So and we can't control them because we leave the nets there. We don't, nobody's stolen them. Well, one person actually slashed all of our nets at one time, but that's in the past. So we just, we like to have everyone be able to play. That's one of the problems.
I'd be interested in hearing from one of the abutters, one of the neighbors, as to what they perceive the hours to be.
Thank you.
I live, again, directly right across the street. I mean, almost never before 9 o'clock. So, but there is play at night till sunset often. So, so it's not true. Whoever made the comment about rarely play after 4 or 5. It's often night play.
So during the summer, then, are they playing till 7, 8 o'clock at night?
It varies, but there's there's usually somebody playing, till 7, 8.
Okay. Well, it's still light. Okay.
I just was going to comment on your question earlier about where else do we put courts, because I've thought a lot about that, and I don't know the city near as well as anybody else in the room, whatever, but I drive down Carmel Valley Road and I look at Carmel Middle School, I look at Paylor Regional Park, and I know there's probably all kinds of issues, but I just look at all that land in both those places, like, oh my God, it's like the perfect spot to build an 8-10 court pickleball facility. And they have those in my other home, Madison, Wisconsin. They have pickleball facilities and indoor facilities. People love them. I mean, the courts are not the same size as tennis. The nets are not the same size as tennis. They put little fences around each of the courts so the balls don't roll on the other courts. You can put lights in if you want. I mean, people love them. And there's great parking. You don't have all the issues with parking. So these courts are really good. So, but I know it takes interaction with all the different regional authorities and money. But I told Chip Rear when I met with him on this issue, I would make a generous contribution to a new facility of 5 digits, towards a new facility. And I would, so I mean that. But Flanders Mansion, I don't know. Nobody's using Flanders Mansion. Put courts out there. Open lot across the driveway, across the inches away from Crossroads. Put all that land there and put pickleball courts there. But anyway, we're others.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we'll bring it back. We're clear about for next month. We'll be okay. Great, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Hopefully, please come back and join us again next month. We'd really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
They can stay.
Thank you.
They can stay.
You can all stay if you'd like to hear our forest our foresters report.
Trying to give you a plug.
We could use their civility on the forest report. Okay. All right. If we could take the conversations outside of chambers, please, that would be helpful. Thank you. If we could move our conversations out of the chambers, that would be helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Our next order of business is the forester's report.
Thank you, Chair Brzezowski. All right, so this is the August 2024 Foresters Report. So, starting with the now titled CFMP, the Carmel Forest Master Plan. So we did receive the draft this week.
Okay.
And we forwarded it to, we reached out to the ecological consultant to have her review, and we're doing our initial review to open it up to a steering committee work session. That's going to be part of the topic for future meetings, to have the really intensive session on tearing it apart, seeing what we like, what we don't like, and having a working session once we have fully digested it and gotten the results back from our ecological assessment from Nikki Nedeff.
Justin, I might get an idea on your timing. Who sees the report first?
Me and Tom.
Okay, and then what's the next step?
And then we'll give it to you guys, and then
Well, it's coming to the steering committee.
Yeah,
right.
You and the steering, all the whole.
We are, but I just want to be clear that
Yeah,
the
the
draft
steering committee first.
and the steering committee will have 10 days to 2 weeks to review and comment, and we'll come together in a community workshop,
Yes.
a half-day workshop, to work through that with the city staff?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a estimated timing yet?
Well,
on-
that's what we wanted to bring to you guys. We'll go over that at the end of the meeting, because we
Okay.
wanted to get some input on what the timing should look like.
Okay.
End of the month, beginning of October. But let me go through the rest. As that was just the first thing. I don't want it to derail the whole report.
Okay. But just to clarify, because I think this is really important, we're clear with the community. The draft has been received.
Yes.
Is this the draft that will be shared with the steering committee?
Yes.
Or do you anticipate a round of revisions based on,
This will most likely be the draft that's shared with you guys.
and, okay. And when are you going to make that decision? It sounds like you have some people looking at
But
it.
when do we get it,
Yeah.
is more to the point.
Yeah.
We need I can't tell you, at least a week to read it over yet. I've been so busy this week, I haven't even opened it. Tom's read a decent amount, and he's really excited about it. So
Okay.
I'll be able to get back to you. That's what I wanted to see, what you guys was a good idea for you. What does your guys' ideal
Okay.
timeline look like?
Let's come back to, let's honor what you suggested
Yeah.
and come back to dates at the end, but let's just be clear for our public that's very interested.
Yes,
Our
yes, of course.
current agreed process is that the draft that has come back from, the draft that's come in will be shared with the steering committee,
yes.
which includes the Forest and Beach Commissioners.
Yes, and then the other 5
And
members
the
of
other
public.
5 members, and that steering committee will have an opportunity to review the draft in full
Yes.
and make comments, edits, whatever. And the working session that we'll have with city staff will be done in a public setting.
Yes.
Where people will be allowed to observe all the comments on the draft of the steering committee.
Yes.
And there will be public comment at the beginning and at the end, but not as we're going through each section. And once the city staff then incorporates the revisions of the steering committee, that is when we anticipate posting for public comment, the version that will be posted for the public, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
We've got that timeline. I have to look at it again, and then at somewhere in there, then we look at the consultant to look over the CEQA review to see where we're at with that.
Right, we just need to be clear that we'll have a steering committee review of the draft first.
Yes.
There'll be a revision that we'll work with city staff on
Yes.
as a result of that. And
Yes.
following that is when we expect to post the draft for public
Yeah,
comment.
yes, yeah. We'll take the revisions
Okay.
from the public and from you guys, of course. And I want to also that everybody know, you and the public, that the tree species list is separate completely from the forest master plan. And it is a living document, change whenever we need to, easily editable, and we just change if trees aren't working well or we want to add new trees or whatever we need be. All right.
Sorry, what?
We should take, yeah, go ahead, Hans.
Just remind me where the version that drew the pitchforks last time, where does
are you
that?
asking?
On the
The
tree
tree.
species list?
Oh.
Where do we stand on that? There was a draft that we reviewed.
I mean, it's pretty much just thrown out because no one liked it. So
So we're back with, we were just with the one we've always
yeah,
had.
but that also has some serious flaws. If you want to be honest, there's a lot of non-native trees, and downtown's littered with them. So I think I need to combine the two, take out what is not working, what is problematic for the infrastructure, and really marry the two and just kind of, I'll build one from like the ground up, kind of.
In other words, Justin would be the lead author of the revised tree species
that
list.
sounds fine.
As opposed to the consultant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're not
That's good.
We're not going to get to the point where the consultant will agree on what this particular community needs. So Justin will be the author. And then, of course, subject to input from the steering committee and commission and community at large.
Yeah.
So
And so is that part of-
maybe we can just add that as a topic when we have our steering committee meetings
Yeah, it's a good
on
idea.
the forest master plan.
Yes. Yeah.
To have a separate agenda item that we just update on the tree species list.
Yeah.
Just so that,
Yes.
because I think it's really important we're transparent and clear with the public on
No, definitely.
when will things be ready for public comment? When will that public comment be? How do we make sure we incorporate that feedback, right? So that we're just really clear about that.
No,
I think is
definitely.
important. Okay.
Justin, can I ask you one quick question? The list that was shared with us by Professor Beach a couple of months ago, do you remember when she gave us each a
Yes.
list? What is that list called again? The tree list, do you remember?
I don't have a copy of it.
But
I
you
think
have
it's
it.
just kind of like compatible trees or plants for the Monterey Peninsula or the.
Oh, that's what.
It's like a native. It's a list of
Victoria
native
Beach.
trees and plants. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
that's in the previous
That's how I-
forest
okay.
management plan as well.
Okay,
Overstory and understory.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so
All right. So we started out issuing task orders to our tree contractors. West Coast Arborist was given 40 stumps, and when they grind the stumps, I'm going to be providing them with native local trees that I pick up from the nursery and have them plant them, like right in the holes that they grind up. The first species were picked were Monterey pine, coast live oak, Catalina ironwood, big leaf maple, and California sycamore. Community Tree Service was also issued 24 trees and high stumps, the totem poles that everyone's so concerned about. And they also will be grinding stumps and will be replanting in those spots. Of those 24 trees, 15 are the high stump totem poles that are eyesore around town. Topes cleared some of the pathway to put in the boardwalk. I don't remember if you guys were at council when they brought up the drainage.
I'll talk more about that.
Okay. And then they'll be getting another. Topes will be getting another task order for more tree removals and pruning coming up. Town and Country, we've got them back doing routine weed whacking and landscape maintenance throughout the town, and we're adding some more stuff down at the beach for them to kind of pick up trash and maintain the beach areas better. And they're helping out with the scenic pathway, relocating some quick connects into the pathway to be more available with the new barrier rail that's going in. In August, the forestry crews planted 19 trees, picked up 6 piles of logs and brush. They pruned 31 trees and removed 6 dead, dangerous, or small overgrown trees impinging the right-of-way, and 5 stumps. Really, a lot of the removals were small, brushy trees doing right-of-way clearance or stop sign clearance. They removed a lot of brush piles in Mission Trail Nature Preserve. They replaced two toddler swings in Lower Forest Hill Park. One broke, the chains were really old and worn. I taped them up, but took way too long to fix, and it was didn't look great. So we took that off just so at least there's nothing there to see. And then when we got the new parts in, our guys went in and replaced the swings. And they also cleared away trees and shrubbery from the roof of City Hall. You guys aren't lucky enough to have been here during the construction. It was fun. You can't hear yourself think, but...
Not done yet.
Yeah. Carmel Cares substantially completed the Ocean Avenue medians. They're pretty much done. I think there's a little tweaking to the irrigation. And phase 2 of the scenic pathway barrier rail installation pathway widening is progressing really well, over 60 feet, and you can see them out there. It looks really good. In terms of permitting, we took in 29 new tree permits, issued 23 permits, and performed 6 site inspections, resulting in 13 prunings, 13 removals, and with a replanting requirement of 16 trees. We took in I got that. So, I don't know if you looked at your graphs here, but we got 184 tickets in our fresh desk ticketing system and underwent a pretty significant project in going through old, duplicate, and outstanding tickets and cleared up 617 to try to bring that number back down to earth a little bit, because it was poking up towards 1,000, and we really wanted to make sure that got down.
Justin, we had talked about starting to track our catch-up, like the deferred, Davey had identified the tree, we had that whole map that we presented to city council. Do we have a?
Not quite yet, because the first task orders just went out, so once we get the data back from the first round of trees we've given out, I think next month I'll be able to draw something up for that and really start tracking that.
Okay, so as of August, we haven't acted on any of the.
We have, but they're removing them right now, so I don't have
They're not done yet.
Yeah, they're not done yet.
Okay.
So I don't want to report on them with the tree crews still running around cutting
understood.
them down.
But so in other words, though, as of today, we haven't completed anything yet on the deferred maintenance that Davey had identified that we talked about would be in our catch-up plan. It's work in progress. As
Yes,
of today
and putting them together, we're pulling directly from reports on tree keeper of dead, very poor trees, putting those straight on there.
Okay. I just think it's since, because we have the tree inventory and because we had specific trees identified and a specific cost associated with all of that deferred maintenance, that tracking where we are on catching up with that deferred maintenance and the cost will be really important, because I think that's going to be an essential part of next year's city council budget review as to whether or not we have enough or we need more or less, right? So I think it would, we should be able to capture precisely the categories that we built.
We are.
Okay.
I understand, and we didn't put that because, again, they weren't done, and I put those in when they're done. But I think from now on we'll put the ones in that were assigned, and then going forward, anything we put on a task order, we'll put those in the numbers.
I think when they're done is fine.
Yeah, okay.
It's totally fine to say right now, hey, we didn't do it because it's work in progress and not complete yet. But I think the first month we have data where we actually have made a dent.
Yes.
The first month dent in the catch-up plan, it would be good to start showing the tracking on that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have.
Open up for public comments?
Do you public?
I think Nova said we have no public comment on the forester report and public works report. That was while you were out. We got corrected on that.
Oh, I believe there's someone.
I know we have a comment. I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Don't worry. I saw a hand up,
Just
so
trying to help.
I saw a hand up. So we were, as it pertains to parliamentary procedure, we were advised by the city clerk that we do not have public comment following the forester's report and the public works department reports. That's a change versus what we've been doing in the past, but it was a correction that was a parliamentary procedure correction. So if we will have public comment at the end regarding announcements or future addenda items, etc. So I think, Melanie, I did see your hand up when Justin was speaking, so I did see you. We'll make sure that we get your last comment before we close today. Okay? All right. Bob?
Okay.
Now we'll hear the Public Works Director's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so for the month of August, some things to report. First of all, at the city council meetings, actually in September, on September the 9th, the city council authorized an expenditure of about $136,000 for the city, for Public Works to buy a new dump truck. Well, why does that have to do with forestry? I'm getting there. Our last dump truck died 2 years ago. And in fact, they hauled it off today. Someone bought it for $3,000 salvage value. It will be in our Friday letter, that happy thought of it was only able to go in reverse at the end. Literally. I'm not making this up.
How apropos. Reverse on out.
All right, so for 2 years, we've been working without a dump truck, which is an essential element of public works. So we just got approval to purchase it. It's in Watsonville, ready for pickup. So, and it comes with an automatic tarp, so things won't be spilling out, such as gravel, sand, asphalt. But it's also a critical element for tree logs, in the storms, for all the debris. We've been using the back of pickup trucks to haul, all the debris and limbs and things like that. So it'll be a really great, necessary, and essential tool to have us continue our operations. And then also, as was previously mentioned, on September the 10th, which was Tuesday, Fire captain presented the community wildfire prevention plan, which was well received in my opinion, and it was adopted by the city council, so it's now in effect. A lot of information available in the report. It's online. It's really good reading. It's an interesting report, and in that report, as was discussed here last, I believe it was November, there's a implementation plan of things to do in each agency, including Carmel. So some of the things have already been done, some of the things are on the hopper, some of the things will be in the future, but it's specific to Carmel, and we've already started to tackle it. That's it for council items. Capital improvement projects. Okay, Mission Trail Nature Preserve down by Rio Road. We have our 3 drainage projects. Interesting enough, this was the project that was delayed over a year by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Service. We finally got a permit, and then what was required is to do, right before construction started, a bird survey, which we did, which was no problem, and a dusky-footed wood rat survey. In that survey, we found 19 nests of the wood rats, which halted construction dead in its tracks. We, so, oh no. So we talked to the Fish and Wildlife Service and said, right now there was a 25-foot buffer to protect it. No one wants to hurt the nest. Can we reduce the buffer from 25 feet to 10 feet, which kind of a Hail Mary, but it was approved. Mm-hmm. The next day, we were mobilized, had the contractor go out there. They got started. So the project is, it's called 3 drainage projects. The first part is piping. There used to be an area near, right in the entryway, that floods and the road gets washed out. Mm-hmm. There was an open creek that's now been enclosed with a pipe. That part's almost done. The second is the fun.
It's good because they have it closed off to us people at this point.
Yeah, and actually, it's a short duration construction. It'll be done in 4 to 6 weeks from now, so it's happening. The second part is a elevated redwood boardwalk, I think 85 foot long. That's, as Justin was talking about, we trimmed the area so the contractor can get his equipment out there. And they're just laying out where the piers, there's like 25 or 28 helical piers that have to be installed in the bog so they can put a raised redwood. So that's going to be a really cool project that's about to come to fruition. And the third is just more of a boring swale, like it's all our repeated attempts of having a swale without a full concrete. The industrial strength has not worked, so we'll be doing that. So anyways, the good news is that we didn't have a fatal flaw with the wood rat nests, and we're moving forward. Second project. I'll wait for maybe Justin to be back. Third one is Shoreline Infrastructure Report Project, including the 4th Avenue outfall wall. So if you recall, last year the consultants doing the coastal engineering study talked about the deficiencies on the beach, along the beach, stairs, revetments, seawalls. And in the capital improvement program, we added funding to design the 4th Avenue outfall seawall, which is the most damaged seawall. All packaged together. Over the summer, there was a process. We issued a request for proposal. We did receive 3 proposals. We ranked them. We selected the best qualified firm. We are negotiating the fee with that firm. It's a bit high, but we think we're in the ballpark. And with that project, we'll be able to do several things. It will assess more detailed assessment of all the stairs, all the revetments, all the walls, rank them, cost estimates, which we didn't have before, rank how they're going to be fixed, when they're going to be fixed. They're going to be doing the design of the worst wall. And let me talk about the stairs, because that gets a little tricky with the highlights. I think it was July, we rented a skid steer, which we're hoping to buy our own skid steer next year, maybe. Ninth Avenue stairs, and we pushed, the sand came back in, we pushed sand at the base of the stairs. The stairs were okay, it was just that there was a big drop. So we pushed the sand back, so we opened up those stairs right away. We're down to 2 stairs that are still damaged. In the last month or so, we hired a structural engineer who went out to look at those, and he confirmed what my suspicion was that they are structurally damaged that need significant repairs. Those 2 still remain closed for public safety. You might have seen we boarded those up a little bit more extreme than they used to be because people were literally removing boards and climbing onto the unsafe stairs. We are looking into informal bidding with a contractor to repair those, but we just received a report that shows the level of damage and the repair concepts. We are looking to see if we can fast track those 2 repairs, but these are not easy repairs. They're structural members of the stringers and treads and the columns and everything. So it's not an easy fix. There's no way city staff can do these repairs. So that's where we're at. We're looking at how we can maybe expedite that. Going back to this consultant that's selected, they'll do permanent repairs. Look, these repairs that I was talking about, maybe to get us by for a couple of years, limp us along. Like, it's safe enough for now, but it's not a permanent solution. So the consultant we're about to hire will look at long-term solutions, at least until the sea level rises, and that's a different discussion. Now that Dustin's another company. Justin. San Antonio Pathway Repair Project. This is along the pathway on the west side between 2nd and 4th Avenues. You remember a year or 2 ago, there was the hedge issue,
They've
which
been
is
ugly forever.
Yeah.
this is still an issue. In the winter of 2023, the fences on the north end and the south end fell over. We will be awarding a construction bid. It's a $500,000 repair. Will be go to council in October. So in November, we'll be under construction. It's a big job. We're going to be shutting down half of San Antonio, so you could have to go northbound to get to Pebble Beach. Southbound, you'll be diverted to 2nd, Camino Real, and down to 4th. So it's a big project. In that process, we're looking at removing, and Justin has blessed this, 2 or 3 trees. Depending on what the contractor really needs, hopefully no trees, but it could be 1, 2, or 3 trees. A lot of the landscaping, what is there now, it's going to be gone. So after the fact, we're going to look to Justin. It's not part of the contractor's work. Let's get him out of there. It's a structural job. It's underground, piers, columns, lagging. And then at the end of the day, you'll see the grape stake fence as it used to appear.
Is it still going to be the same width?
Same width. Okay, but it's a big project. So I
And
think
it'll go all the way down. It'll cover that
From
whole
4th
area.
to 2nd.
4th to 2nd.
between 2nd and 4th,
Yep.
there's I call it like in thirds, the northerly third, which is damaged, the southerly third is damaged, and in the middle, it's still okay.
Yeah.
We're going to leave that part alone. So anyway, so you'll see over the next couple of months, you'll see the landscaping, the sensitive landscaping, trees being removed so we can fix that wall. Okay. After the fact, we know we have to come back in and do some, we're kidding about woolly bush, but something.
Where is the city property on San Antonio? Is it past 2nd where we had neighbors, remember there was pruning debates and we said that no, that's city property, the city will manage that. Does that fall in that?
Those are the trees we're talking about.
Okay.
That one?
Got it. Okay.
That is
So
part of that?
Yeah, so that section, is within, I thought it was in that section, I just wanted to make sure.
Are those-
Okay.
We go down that other road just a little bit.
Yes.
Some of those trees may be removed. That's to be determined.
Yeah, these are all city trees.
I know, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember what their name was too.
Did you confirm that none of them are significant?
Yeah, they're not significant.
Not significant.
They're loquats, a lot of them, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think one's an oak.
Yeah.
Oh, that's new though.
The new one's the oak.
That might be significant.
Okay,
Oh, let's hope not.
let's take that up later.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
you're working on 2nd through 4th.
All right, just give me a heads up, this is coming, so.
Great.
Okay.
In terms of climate committee and climate action, okay, so if you recall, we did coastal engineering study phase 1. There was the 4 components that was all presented to Forest and Beach over the last year and a half. They're working on phase 2, so now phase 2 is starting to get intense. The first thing we did, we developed a community engagement plan, which was submitted to the California Coastal Commission. It's a pretty thorough plan. It was really spelled out because we got a $500,000 grant from the Coastal Commission. So the requirements of the community engagement plan was pretty thorough, and we're in conformance of that, but it was customized for the city. I think you'll probably be reviewing that or seeing that at some point, but it's more of for information. However, what we'll need your expertise and opinion is we're in the process of preparing a community survey about people's use of the beach, how often they get to the beach, what do they use the beach for? Do they fly kites? What's the example? They walk dogs, what they prefer now, and then in recognition of sea level rise and the reduction of the width of the beach, what should be the game plan? Should there be, I'm just throwing it out, no, nothing's set in stone. A jetty. Add a lot of sand. What types of things should be considered, would be palpable to the community over the course of the next 50, 70, 100 years? What can we develop as a plan of action to maintain the beach in usable condition for as long as possible? Okay, so
there's a book that just published last year that's excellent on this topic, a whole book on California versus the ocean, but it's very evidence-based. I think it's important to it's one thing to ask people how they use the beach recreationally. I think it's hard to ask laypersons like what structural solution they would like to see without knowing whether a seawall versus a jetty versus those are things that are hard to ask people that
which
require some education in.
Which is why we didn't put that survey on today's agenda.
Yeah.
Because it needs some fine tuning before you can, before the commission reviews it. But either next month or maybe the month after, we'll be bringing that to the, similar to when we did the tree, or the, what used to be called the urban forest master, the community, Carmel Forest Master Plan survey. If you recall, the commission had some weighed in and had some comments, which was really helpful. So it'll be the same type of thing, but now we're talking about beach. So that's coming soon.
Yeah, that'll be driven by Mary too, so that.
Okay.
Right. Oh,
I just think, like, for example, the survey that we did for the trees was more to get input on how people felt about trees and the character of Carmel. It was not designed to seek scientific input on what trees should be in Carmel. It was not, So I think we need to make sure that we survey people on topics that they have ability to answer.
It's more like that's correct. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
If you have a book in mind, please send it to myself or Mary, or the link or whatever.
It was actually.
Okay, but
I couldn't put it down, which is.
There's a lot of information. In fact, Mary went to a Coastal Commission statewide symposium yesterday. For representatives from all up and down the coast of California. We're in Monterey yesterday, so. Anyway,
so can I just say this? So just to be clear, because of the forestry and the survey that we just did, this is to get public opinion, because we have scientific information that we are also getting. So this is just another component, just to be clear. Okay.
Yes.
One piece.
One piece of it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had a quick question on the beach stairs. If you had to sort of guess, like, what the timeline looks like at this point, do you have any sense?
Of the two remaining
all of us
stairs?
need to speak close to the mic.
Yeah. Is it on? It is on.
Yeah.
What's the, what would you estimate the timeline is on the remaining beach stairs?
We recognize the urgency. We're doing everything we can. We've already expedited, was it 7 or 8 stairs that we fixed ourselves in-house? We are doing everything we can to maintain the stairs, but we're at the point where these 2 stairs we cannot fix without a lot of money and a lot of, and a contractor. We're talking still months, we're many months away.
And then my other question was, is there anything we can do aesthetically in the interim? You know, I'm even thinking like some redwood might look a little bit better than some of the, some of the plywood. Like, is that, it just looks, not to be a hater, it just looks a little bit dumpy. And I was just wondering if it's going to be many months, is there some way that we can, I mean, even maybe it's just working with Carmel Cares and saying, hey guys, can you guys come up with something that makes this look a little bit?
We should get some Carmel artists to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something.
There you go.
That'd be interesting.
Do you remember the Santa Cruz guy who painted the boat?
Yeah.
Maybe we have someone paint the beach or something. So it looks like the beach. You never know. We could perhaps put that out, and we have a lot of artists here in town. Maybe somebody would paint our plywood.
I'm not going to, these are all good ideas. All good ideas.
Don't you feel like he's patting us on the head?
But seriously, we're doing whatever we can to expedite the repairs. There's, we don't need to be reminded. We are doing whatever we possibly can.
But you've said this, right, and it's important for everyone to understand. There's structural damage that requires repair, that's going to require bidding. It's going to require permitting from the California Coastal, right? Like this is.
No.
Because that used to be that's no longer the case.
The permanent repairs for the long term will require lots of permits.
Right.
The maintenance
Temporary.
repairs for a temporary measures to allow temporary, access with signs that say use with
Caution,
at your own risk or something, whatever it says. We can permit that ourselves in-house.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it depends on, we're looking long term or short term. Okay. I think we talked about a little bit about Carmel Cares already, with just a couple things. I can find it. Oh, and I noticed that this wasn't really discussed over the last couple months, but Carmel Cares last fiscal year, they got a $3,000 city discretionary grant to do some improvements at Vista Lobos site. Was it third and Torrey's. And it's mostly, they cleared out, there was a lot of overgrowth, they cleared it out, they did some planting. And the city contractor, we did some paving in the parking lot, so you don't, there was a lot of tree roots that were, that were resolved. So a little bit of a smoother parking lot. But anyway, that work was completed in July, completed in June, and then the paperwork was done in July and August, so it's done. That part's done. And then Justin mentioned this briefly about the Scenic Pathway Hardscape project, which includes the barrier rail. At this point, the city allocated $100,000 of city funds to match Carmel Cares contribution. And I believe, Tom, we're about $85,000 in. So we're close. They were over 60% complete. They may be 70, maybe even 80% complete with their project now. So that's coming into the home stretch. It looks really great. That's it for Carmel Cares. And
I have one question on Carmel Cares, Bob.
Sure.
The bi-weekly meetings that the couple I sat in seemed to be really useful in terms of just being coordinated with Carmel Cares. They've been canceled for like the last 3 weeks.
Correct.
So is there a plan to, I know they've been canceled by Carmel Cares, but the question is there, should we ask Carmel Cares if there's someone else that can represent Carmel Cares in those meetings? Or I just feel like it seems like that's a huge resource for our city.
Tom is the city's liaison, #1 liaison with Carmel Cares. So you want to answer that, please?
Yes.
The answer is yes? Or yes, you want to answer the question?
Yes, I think the answer to the question is yes. I think we can ask if another representative.
The answer to the question is yes. I think it's reasonable to ask another Carmel Cares representative if they would like to meet, and for whatever time to have a good conversation. Yeah.
It might just be useful because I think that organization has done so much for our city. And we've had, there's been sort of, it seems like there's been a nice ongoing continuous relationship with that organization. And with the change, impending or recent change of leadership, right, it seems like the meetings just kind of dropped off, and it might be useful to ask, is there somebody else that we could meet with?
Sure. Yeah, no, very reasonable question. You know, for the record, it's no secret that when those meetings were canceled, Dale and I frequently run into one another at projects, at Public Works, while dropping things off, and we have met each of those days. Him and I had corresponded, as we frequently correspond, with individuals within Carmel Cares. So we were taking care of like crucial things outside of those meetings, but yes.
Oh, okay, so if you're not worried, then I'm not worried. It just seemed like they've been, I think those discussions
we haven't
can be.
been radio silent at all.
No,
we've been,
no.
we've been constantly, yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, every one of those Fridays, I had either met with Dale or called him. He came into Public Works, that kind of thing, so.
Okay, I just think that we just don't want the city to lose that relationship with that organization.
No,
right?
we want to continue to recognize the huge contributions that they make, the huge contributions that other city support groups make as well. Yes, so we want to continue to recognize those. So we'll continue having those.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying. Okay, last couple of miscellaneous. Going back to Mission Trail Nature Preserve, Public Works, the big wood chip stockpile we had at Rio Park. So we did the lion's share along Sarah Trail, pending the finishing up those 3 drainage projects, so we'll finish that. And I don't know if they started Willow Trail, but that's coming up next. The wood chips on Willow. I know they've been busy. So anyway, so that's
good.
We kind of do that every fall, or And then the last but not least is, it's my understanding that we called the Moss Landing Marine Laboratories. There was a dead seal on the beach.
So,
you want to cover that one, please?
One morning, one of our maintenance workers, because we would get assigned to bury dead seals and other animals, and he made kind of the offhand comment, "Oh man, this looks like this was shot." So he gave me some pictures, and I kind of was like, well, that's not the best. So I ran up to Mary and brought it up with her, showed her the pictures, and she reached out to either Moss Landing or just to the Marine Mammal Center, and we learned about the process involving dead marine mammals, and we're not necessarily doing it right. We need to call, block them off, and have independent investigators come out and look to make sure the cause of death, make sure that they weren't shot, and then either they'll haul them away or they'll tell us to bury them.
Right. In that process, there was a discussion or notification that we were supposed to have a permit from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA,
To bury it.
a federal agency. So we are in the process of trying to find exactly what is required, what is the proper procedure. In the meantime, if there's a dead seal today, we call the Moss Landing Marine Laboratories to come take a look. But we're trying to come up with, we want to be in compliance with all the laws, and we're trying to get exactly what is the law, because there seems to be some different people have different opinions. That completes my report for this month, unless there's any questions.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Let's go.
For Bob? Okay, our next topic is agenda items for future, just a couple minutes. Does anybody have any agenda items for future meetings?
Yes, I have several.
Okay.
Then I'll turn over to Justin. Okay, the sea level rise adaptation community survey we talked about, so that's coming, whether it's next month or the month after, it's coming soon. Another topic, which is talked about probably a couple of years ago, Commissioner Burley might remember, e-bikes in Mission Trail Nature Preserve. Okay, so this is something that's been presented to the Traffic Safety Committee on several occasions. Unfortunately, we don't have police officers on every trail 24/7 to keep e-bikes out of there. But there's a couple of things in the hopper. So we wanted to bring that back to the Forest and Beach Commission, alert you to the concerns, the issues. It seems to be a growing problem again.
It is.
Yeah, so that's coming up. And Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve, Greg D'Ambrosia and Scott Lonergan are proposing to present, probably next month, what they call great opportunities to improve the village forest character.
Oh, I saw that.
Okay, so they'll be making, they already have a draft of the presentation. They'll be presenting ideas to do a lot of landscaping in areas that are barren, that type of thing. So
Sounds like it's to put trees everywhere in a spot they can find.
maybe. So I would suggest let's hear them, let's see what their proposal is. And of course, we have to factor in the ability to maintain it, and who's doing what, who's paying for it, all that kind of thing. And then, Justin, what else do you got coming?
But on that topic though, I would hope that that we would prioritize the deferred maintenance we have ahead of like new landscaping from a city perspective. Like I think if Carmel Cares or we have organizations that want to do some of that other work, like that seems reasonable.
Yes.
But I think to take our city resources off a task that we already have a few years of backlog on would be, you'd have to make a deliberate choice to do that, right?
And we did just give the Friends of Friends of Carmel Forest a significant amount of vacant planting spots that they're going to double check, and we gave those available to them throughout the city. So hopefully, that could be part of it too. We can work with the Friends, maybe.
But you're still approving where they go.
Yeah,
correct?
and we gave them
Okay.
them the
And that's
the
really
sites.
important.
Yes. So what I've got, gonna have to revisit the Torrey Pine. I have a red tag that we're gonna have to clear at up on Carpenter from grading too close to trees, and then we need to set a date for the Carmel Forest Master Plan stuff.
And
So-
pickleball round two.
And always more pickleball.
False,
So
a false lake.
we have one extra member of the steering commission here. Peter, would you want to come up and talk by any chance? I know you waited forever.
No, I mean, I thought we were going to
Discuss a date.
yeah, a date. That's why,
Yeah.
I would want to say that maybe Wednesdays, because I teach a class, would not work for me.
Okay.
But I'm busy every day of the week, but I can adjust my schedule.
If we scheduled a half day to start, is morning or afternoon tend to be
Morning is
better?
probably best.
Morning is
Yeah.
better for you, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
and I would
here,
like to
so
get-
we'll take your input, right?
Sure,
Like,
okay, and
yeah.
I would actually like to get a hard copy of the management plan.
You will once.
Yeah.
So it'll go to everyone here and everyone on the steering committee.
Yeah, no, I mean a printed hard copy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll print you one.
Okay, good.
I think,
Yeah.
and I think the idea is that we'll have when Justin issues that to the steering committee,
Yeah.
we'll want to have at least like 10 to 12 days before we have our meeting, so that everybody has sufficient time to like really review it.
Yeah, and it'd be great if we could all meet
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah.
Good.
So are we looking at trying to set a date? So
I think we need to know when Justin's going to give it to us, right? That's the.
do we know that? He has it?
This is good.
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
Sounds like they said that he wasn't.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can get that to you guys next week, early next week, and then maybe if you want to set a date towards the end of this month or just before next month's meeting.
So like Wednesday the 25th or the October 2nd, kind of?
He said not Wednesday.
Oh, you said not Wednesday?
Actually, my class is in the afternoon, so Wednesday morning
He said
would work.
Wednesday was the only day of the week he.
Yeah.
Oh, Wednesday was the only day of the week that wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be arbitrary. Sorry.
Dale has his hand up, I guess.
Oh, okay, we'll get.
Would the 3rd work?
Thursday?
Thursday the 3rd?
Thursday the
I can make
3rd,
that, I
that's
can make that
fine.
work.
And that's when we would get it, is that the idea?
No, we'll
No,
get
you'll get it
we're gonna get
next
it,
week.
we'll have our
Oh,
community
okay.
workshop on
Okay,
Thursday the
October
3rd.
3rd, okay. The meeting, okay.
Correct. And I think the idea is that everybody will have reviewed the draft.
That doesn't work for me. I don't know.
The
if
3rd
that-
doesn't? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you know,
then
in
let's
fact,
figure.
that week
okay.
doesn't work.
Okay.
That whole week doesn't work?
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the,
I'm not,
the 8th?
the 8th works.
This is October.
October 8th?
Is that
Do we
too
want to
close
get that
the
close
next
to the next meeting? Is that okay?
The 15th, October 15th?
What's on the 8th? Oh, that's city council.
Do you care if we do it before the next regular meeting, or could we do the regular meeting and do it after?
I don't think it matters. I think that we.
And that's, yeah, we want to get
We
you
want to
guys
prioritize attendance
what works best for everybody.
and a quality review of the document, right?
So what did we decide on it?
Linda, I see you online. What is your availability?
Yes, I just had a question. The sound is very bad. So for those of us, I don't know whether it's just my problem. It started out good, but it's deteriorated. So I can hardly understand. It's all muffled. When are we going to be getting the draft? And can you kind of make it very clear what date you're going to plan to have a meeting and what kind of meeting it is? Because it's very hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah, can you hear me? Is this coming clear? I know my voice is a little raspy.
It's just muffled, like everybody has marbles in their mouth.
Okay.
Figured it out.
So maybe we can let's pick like 2 dates that work for this group here, including Peter, and then maybe you can send out a Google Calendar thing to the whole team, including the steering committee, and let's just spin which of the 2 dates is best for the most number of people.
Okay.
Is there a time? What time did we say?
And so I think Peter was saying morning, morning is fine. I think what we agreed was that we do like a half day, and if we can't get through it, we may have to schedule a second session to get through the whole thing, but we're going to take our time section by section to make sure that until we see the draft, we don't know how big
and
it
then
is or how much
could
feedback.
the question to you guys.
Okay, so let's get going.
Give me some- yeah, so could-
This is really dragging.
How about the week of the 23rd? Is that enough time if you want one of the days, and we could
23rd of
maybe do
October?
later? No, of September. I know we talked about the 3rd week when we were talking earlier
That
about
would
when we would
probably be
schedule.
good.
Is the 4th week?
The 23rd only gives us,
I know. No, the week of, so maybe the 26th.
I have a family member having surgery on the 25th, so the
Okay.
only day I could do that
20
week is the 23rd.
Is the
Hey, Vet, could you
23rd.
do
Okay.
a doodle poll?
Is it possible, Justin and Tom, when do you think you could get us the report? When could it be emailed to all of us?
You do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow or Monday, and then if whoever wants a physical copy, we'd have to just know so we can.
Okay.
I think we should allow the steering committee 2 full weeks with that
150.
report before we meet. It's a long document.
Okay.
so.
So you
we
said
would
7
get
to
it
10
the
days, but you think
13th.
14 days?
So how about the 27th? Can we do it on a Friday?
I can't. The surgery's at UCLA, so
Oh, sorry.
25th, 26th, 27th, I'm out.
Okay, yeah.
How do you
So-
feel about
So how about
the
Monday
commission
the 30th?
secretary sending out a doodle poll?
I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
this might have to be solved offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm out that week.
You're out?
So
I'm not here.
are you,
Which week?
The week
Are
of
you
the
okay to do
30th,
that for us?
That whole,
Okay.
the 30th through the 4th.
so we're going to have Yvette, she'll send out a Google
Okay.
poll to
Okay.
all of the steering committee,
Okay.
and we'll just see which
Okay.
2 dates work the best.
I'll give you a couple of options.
Perfect.
And I just want guidance. Is it important for you to have it done before the next regular meeting, or no?
No.
Okay,
I just-
Okay.
that gives us a lot more options.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
And then the one
Does
other-
anybody else? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What you mentioned, I was going to mention that also. If we have enough information, I'd like us to be able to put on the agenda that perhaps we could make a decision about pickleball with not an entire, but if we want to look at hours or something, that we are able to
to do that. So if we could think about putting that on the agenda.
Yeah, so maybe we just describe the agenda item as a continued review of the pickleball and possibly.
Well, it'd be self-recommend, let's say, for example, self-recommends to implement a new sign, and also the commission provides more direction to staff.
Pickleball part
And you
two.
could say, no, I don't want the sign, and something like that.
No, but I think
it would
on
be an action.
hours, if we would decide to adopt like an
Yeah.
hours implementation, we
Yes.
should be clear that there may be
So there's some movement,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it so there's more flexibility.
Good idea.
Okay.
The only thing I was going to say is it might be nice to have more than a couple options given the number of people, but so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are there dates that are, maybe we should just ask for Yvette's benefit, are there any dates that don't work for people?
I think I think it can all come out in the.
I think we need
in the
to,
poll.
on the steering committee. Better to do this through email.
So we have one last agenda item. I don't know if it will be October or November, but the Carmel Cares Beach Pup Committee, I've met with them a couple of times. This is the group that does the volunteer beach cleanup. And they are going to start doing a biannual report to us of their volunteer hours and the types of trash they're picking up. So I'm working with them on developing their first reporting outline. And they've got a really great team in place that I think it would be fabulous for us to hear more about what they're doing. We did look at whether or not the beach, the trash we're picking up could feed into the Clean Swell app. So the Monterey National Marine Preserve, they're trying to capture what trash is picked up on our shores through an app called the Clean Swell app. It's not a user-friendly app. So they're not going to be using it for right now. They're just going to do some reporting based on what they're collecting.
Okay.
And but I think that'll be in the next 2 months. So I think that was the only item I had. Any other future agenda items? Okay. Since we changed our parliamentary procedure, Melanie, did you have a question during Justin's? Did you have one question you wanted to ask, or are you good?
No, I just wanted to make comments.
Okay. Come on up. Yep. Let's just keep it to the 3 minutes, and we'll make sure we take good notes. Thank you.
Number one, I'd just like to suggest, because this is a rather convoluted conversation on timing and scheduling for the master plan, that you set up a schedule and that you let everyone know what that schedule is for full transparency. I don't think you want a fiasco like last night or the last few months on street addresses. And that's what's going to happen if we don't have some clarity right out of the stocks about when your meetings are being held, what the topics are, whether you're going to have public input, because I'd like to see it be successful. And I think you who were at the meeting, the workshop last time, saw the reaction of the public. And so I would just, encourage you to really do some serious scheduling and some real serious information to the public about, what the goals are of each meeting and, what you want from the public and when the public's going to start getting involved. And I think, to be really honest with you, I think you want them started off in the beginning. Don't start off like with the street addresses, with the beginning of chaos. I mean, I think a number of you were at the last meeting and you saw it, but it's been coming for months. It's just like the police station, you don't run a business that way, you don't run City Hall that way. So I just really appreciate if, you give some serious thought to that. And it's really easy to find the tree list. Tamara, I can let you know, it's right out of the seminal book on Monterey Pine Forest. And it's not Victoria's pine list,
No, she just passed it to you.
Yeah, it's the scientific plan list that's out there for people to, to see. And it's very good, it's very thorough, and it is scientifically sound. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for allowing me to speak and just make these comments. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
And I would just say, Melanie, for your benefit, you know, the plan with the draft, just so you know, is always been that the steering committee would see the draft first to have an opportunity to react to the draft.
That makes sense.
And the reaction to the draft is going to happen in an open public session where people will just be able to observe all of the feedback. And there will be an opportunity to hear some public input, but we're not using that as a public commenting on the draft isn't ready yet for public comment.
Well, I think the public would understand that you all want to see what's going on and understand it, and then make comments, your comments, as you perceive it, and always remember, though, that the public expects you guys to be neutral on something after you've heard public comment. So, you know, that's just, it means that you're going to start off on the right foot. That, you know, you're not presenting the public with a fait accompli and then saying, well, what are your comments about this now? Doesn't sell well, especially here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that,
Did Dale have a comment?
I don't see a hand up. There's not a hand up. I think Linda's hand is up.
Dale's comment.
He just put his hand back up.
Oh, okay.
Want to call?
I guess after you've had your hand raised for about an hour.
What?
You hear me?
Am I, okay, I just wanted to,
Hold on just a moment. It's Dale's turn to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Dale.
I'm actually Dale, not Margaret, but I'm still here, just so you all know. What happened with the meetings is, you know, we have some significant projects going on. We did finish the median project, and I'm glad everybody likes it. But Bob disappeared. We didn't know what was going on with Bob, so he wasn't at the meetings. Mary was busy sometimes. Justin's obviously always busy. So Tom and I talk as often as we need to. So we just decided that rather than have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting, we would just deal with the issues that we had, and some of them are accounting and, you know, it's detailed stuff. So it wasn't intentional that we stopped having our meetings or that I wasn't involved. It just sort of time and place thing. So just so you know that and we appreciate that you like the meetings. We've done 116 of them. It takes a lot of effort and like 5,000 Google slides. So Tom and I will make sure that we have the next meeting at the regularly scheduled time. Right, Tom? Well, you don't have to talk. And we'll continue on that way. I want to give a call out to Shirley Moon, who I go down and check on her twice a day, every day, 5 days a week, but she's down there 9 hours a day. We're working probably 10 hours a day from the crew works as they pick up their materials in the morning from 7 to 6. And it's costing us, by the way, about $7,000 a week. So we're going to hit our 100,000 as well. So it's not an insignificant project, but they're doing a beautiful job. I'm very proud of what we're doing together with the city. And it's a legacy project. And people go down, I hear people all the time, because I'm talking to a lot of people right now. People go down to go for a walk on the pathway to look at our little fence that we've done together. So it's pretty fun. And there are some other things going on that's a lion's share. One piece of good news in terms of report out is the schools are back in session, and Stevenson School, we're going to have 40 people. And we are splitting 25 of them off to Joey Canepa at the North Dunes, as I promised last time. So that's going to make a big difference there for 3 hours. And that's going to be a week from Monday. And Joey's all clued in on that. We've got 20 Rotary Club kids from the high school this Saturday. We're going to split them up between some medians at Junipero and 3rd and Mission and 5th. Kelly and the downtown detail are going to help coordinate that with me. And then we've got another group from Stevenson School, probably about 20 of their upper school kids are going to go to Forest Theater the same day they go to the North Dunes. And we got River School kids did a 41-person beach cleanup last week, Kelly wasn't coordinating that because they didn't tell us, but from now on, we're going to coordinate with them. And we've got another group of kids from the lower Stevenson School that are going to try to come out every week and do projects with us, either the beach cleanup or some minor landscaping over at Forest Theater. So it's really exciting. The schools are engaged, and it's a challenge to find work for them because the city's doing such a great job and we're doing such a great job. There's less things to do. And it's good to have Bob back, and it's nice to be back with the team.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, Dale. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, you had a question?
No, that's a separate one we're through here.
Oh.
But Linda's taken her,
Yeah.
oh, now she's got it.
I was just going to say thank you, and I understand that the draft will be coming to us tomorrow, probably. I think I heard properly, and
Or Monday.
You know,
Yes, tomorrow or Monday.
As a representative of Monterey Pine Forest Watch, I always like to remind us that we all live in a native Monterey pine forest, and that Carmel has a unique relationship to it in that it's the only municipality that put its heart and soul into our Monterey pine forest. So as we read this draft, I hope we keep that in mind, that we are part of the local, really valuable native Monterey pine forest. So that's just from Monterey Pine Forest Watch. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. And I think Justin and Tom are saying we should have, the expectation is we should have the draft by Monday, right? Okay.
Tomorrow at the very best, or Monday. Probably
Monday, and then if you say
fine.
Monday, everybody's good. Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
And with that, I think we're adjourned. Okay, thank you.
When I'm trying to get to that thing to turn my thing off, and it usually goes in bed, but now I'm getting used to it.